penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
You know, I guess word must have gotten out around the day job that I happen to like Star Wars because there was a parade of people going through the aisle, all lined up to wish me happy Star Wars Day.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah. And I said, you know, wishing me happy Star Wars Day is like saying Merry Christmas to Santa Claus. Ha! It just means more work for me, people. You're all going to go home, and you're just going to sit back and chill out on your couch. And I'm going to go home, and I'm going to entertain thousands of Star Wars fans across the globe. No, of course.
Yes, indeed.
I'm happy to do that. Very happy to do it. So happy May the 4th be with you day.
Ooh.
Yeah, let's look. Oh, this way. You should spare. No, wait. I can't. I still can't do it. I can't. I'll just point up. There we go. That's it. Pointing to the flag, the May the 4th flag. We're off to a bang-up start. We are tanned, rested, and ready coming out of RFR spring break. And by we, I mean, of course, myself. If you're new to the show, my name's Jason, and with me, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. May the 4th be with you. Happy Star Wars Day. What? Happy Star Wars Day. Yeah, and like most people, it's like, today's Star Wars Day. But in my house, where every day is Star Wars Day, today's just simply Thursday.
Thursday,
Some
where we're
people
going
don't
live.
understand it. But, you know, I tried to make a big deal about today. Some new content dropped, like Star Wars Visions and the new kids show, the Jedi, Young Jedi.
Which I heard that's canon, by the way. Have you heard this?
Well, okay. I mean, that's fine.
I mean, that depends if you can believe. I've got the story. We can pull it up later on. But I think it was Wired.com was attempting to collect every now endorsed canonical Star Wars something. So they had all the TV shows, the movies. They had, of course, the books, the young adult books, all this. And, Jim, they had that new cartoon. I couldn't believe it. They had the Young Jedi Adventures.
Silly. Yeah, I think it's a stretch to include Star Wars Resistance in any of those lists. And that it actually there was actually a plot and adults in that story. This show, I mean, it's a show for preschoolers. And I think that Star Wars parents who have the little tots in the house, they're going to find a lot of value in this show. I think that there's something there. But I mean, it's just, it's not dropping at a time in my life where that show, is any use to me, really. But I did turn it on today just to see what it was, and it looked cute, and it looked like, just your typical toddlers preschool show, but with lightsabers, which was nice. And I gotta say, there's a new voice for Yoda because, of course, we know Tom Kane can no longer perform due to his health issues, and the new Yoda by a guy named I think his name is Pitor Michael
Pittore, I think.
Pittore. Okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
He does a damn fine job. So they must have had some big auditions to I'd love to hear the story about how he got the gig. But they must have had some big auditions for the Yoda voice. Unfortunately, none of those audition notices came across my desk here at RFR Central.
I think
they don't even understand the nature of the Yoda warm-up and how it's, I mean, that's canon. if you really want to know the honest to God truth. Yes, there he is, little Yoda. And then he's with a purple girl and a little stuffed animal there. It's cute. It's nice. It's fun. But I mean, as an adult Star Wars fan, I can't be watching this and starting to consider its place in canon or anything like that. I mean, it's a show for preschoolers. That's all it is. It's very Disney-fied, and
it's High Republic era is what we're dealing with. I can tell by the golds and the the colors in the costumes here. Costumes,
High Republic era is
Jedi
very
robes.
glam. It's very glam. Like, you know, David Bowie would have been a Jedi in the High Republic era. Very glam.
Our May the 4th is just a little bit too big there. Backing it off, May the 4th. Back off, May the 4th. So I haven't watched any of that. I will confess that I did watch the first 3 Star Wars Visions. And I wasn't feeling it. I really wasn't feeling it. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't some brilliant things that'll come later as I watch the rest of them. But out of the first 3, it's so over the top, and I just find it a little bit self-indulgent, which that's really what it's there for. It's to get these great, brilliant, creative minds out of anime and give them Star Wars, the sandbox to play around in. So I understand that, but it's not for me, I don't think. At least these first 3 weren't.
I found the first season of Visions to be kind of fresh and interesting, at least. This stretch of Star Wars Visions is not connecting with me. No, not at all. And for some of those reasons that you're mentioning, Jason, but it just feels very disconnected from the Star Wars universe to me. It's these just random people having long conversations, and then all of a sudden, in the last 5 minutes, lightsabers bust out.
That's just
basically
the
rhythm of just about every one of these Visions episodes. The one that really came closest to Star Wars featured there was a race. It was kind of a claymation sort of thing. I don't have the rundown pulled up in front of me, unfortunately. I'd rather hear what our listening audience thought of Star Wars Visions. Maybe there's something me and Jason are missing, but it just was not my cup of tea, and I found it rather a drag. Visually, it was pretty nice, but there were no elements of storytelling that made me even give a damn. So that's where I think, maybe to continue doing something like Star Wars Visions, really steep it more in Star Wars itself and present us with not even characters. The characters can be all new, but just situations that feel familiar as Star Wars to us, because this round of Visions is missing it by a mile at least. So give us a call. Tell us what you thought about Star Wars Visions. Here's our plan for tonight. There ain't no plan. We're here to celebrate Star Wars Day with all of you guys and hear what you guys think about all the new Star Wars content that's been dropped on us right now. Everything from Mandalorian Season 2, which recently wrapped, to Jedi Survivor, the follow-up to Jedi Fallen Order. I know a lot of people are up to their necks in that game right now. I sure am. Star Wars Visions, Young Jedi Adventures, whatever you want to talk about. There's this new book that came out, Star Wars Timelines, which is kind of an interesting book because it gathers all of the Disney era canon in one place, and so you can follow along with the chronology in a more clear fashion than you were ever able to in the past. And it's taking some getting used to for me because I, of course, am old school expanded universe canon. And so there are many elements of the Star Wars story which I consider to be essential that are missing from this book because they have been taken away from their from the actual like official storyline. And we know that expanded universe is being cherry picked here and there to bring in characters and situations from expanded universe into the new canon. And so it's sort of interesting to see where that has actually happened in this book. It also features a timeline for things like Star Wars Rebels, The Bad Batch, Mandalorian Seasons 1 and 2, Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi. It's all here. So I think it's kind of neat to see how that all comes together and try to follow along how they connect the dots that sort of rationalize the irrationality that was presented largely in the sequel trilogy. You know, the company, Lucasfilm, is desperately trying to connect those dots and make sense of the hot mess that was the sequel trilogy. And that's kind of fun to watch, you know?
Yeah.
It's just sort of fun to look at.
It's funny you say that because as I was cruising the news feeds today, I saw a lot of mainstream, you know, non-Star Wars, non-pop culture media trying to make sense of the timeline. So what their contribution to Star Wars Day was, here's what you need to know about where all these things fit in together and their relationship to one another. So it's starting to become a thing, Jim, and you and I predicted this a while back, that this was eventually going to become more and more of an issue, I think, for the brand, really.
It is an issue. It's really surfaced as an issue for the Marvel brand, because there was a time when films were coming out like Iron Man and Captain America, and they appealed to a mass audience. It seems like now Marvel is painted themselves into a corner where all they can create are things that really appeal to hardcore Marvel fans. It's lost its mainstream appeal. So that's been a problem with Marvel, and we've seen it building and building up over the years. And it needs to be avoided with Star Wars at all costs. But I don't know if that's possible in this age of franchise entertainment. It just seems like there are built-in pitfalls along the way, and they're being discovered by every major franchise out there, from Lord of the Rings to Star Wars to Marvel and beyond.
Well, you know, going back real quick to Jedi Survivor, I know that that's something that I'm never going to experience as far as playing the game, just because I'm not much of a gamer. But thanks to YouTube, I've been able to watch all these various plot synopses, and I really feel like I've experienced it, not the gameplay, but I've experienced the story. And as this was going on, I mean, one of the shortest synopses I found was almost a half hour long, because there's so much story, there's so much content to go through. And I kept saying to myself, why is this not a series? Where's the 8 episodes of this? Because I was really, really into it and thought that it was very dense. It was very rich. I liked that the characters were very interconnected. There were multiple twists. And so it really kept me interested. So here I am, I'm watching. You know how some of these YouTubers are. They have a very robotic way of talking when they're doing the 50 things you didn't notice in this episode of Mandalorian or whatever. I mean, I'm glad that these things exist. They're great. But if this guy, whose delivery was pretty bland and vanilla, made Jedi Survivor sound really exciting, then I can just imagine what it would be like. And of course, the actors that they get, they're real actors. And they look even more real every time there's a new generation system coming out, a new game comes out. It's like a movie anyway, I suppose. And from a revenue standpoint, I think some of these games have the potential to make more than they would have made with a movie or a streaming series or something like that. But, they did it with that zombie, The Last of Us. They did that. They turned that. It was a very popular game, turned it into a series, made a series out of it. So who knows? Maybe Jedi Survivor is very popular. Cal Kestis is a very popular character. The actor is very popular. So who knows? Maybe they will do something with at least with that character. Jimmy Max got the action figure.
I did. The action figure, I finally scored this action figure a day before the game came out. So this guy's been my constant companion as I've been playing Jedi Survivor. I'm at about 15 hours of gameplay right now. And I want to say this. You started with your whole rap about Jedi Survivor saying that you'll never play because you're not a gamer. But I have to say that the way that EA has made it so you can customize your game playing experience, you'll become a gamer as you play it, because it's made for they can set you up so you can have a game playing experience that won't be half as challenging as someone who has it set to more extreme difficulties.
Because
and
my
it's
frustration
also
was going, thinking about it was, God, I don't want my gaming skills to keep me from watching the story unfold. Like that would get awfully big. I can't imagine like being in a movie and I have to, do some, feats of strength or skill or whatever in order to see what the next 10 minutes is going to be.
Well, it's just so damn fun to explore these worlds, to use the lightsabers to cut down stormtroopers. I mean, they even have it so you can adjust how extreme it is visually when you slice and dice stormtroopers. There's a dismemberment mode that you can turn on and off.
Are you most violent? Or is that where you?
No, not me. Not me. I don't like limbs and stuff, separated from bodies. That's not my scene, but some people are eating it up, and
maybe I could get Parker to play it and I could just watch him.
Dude, I'm telling you, you can play it. You don't have to rely on your 10-year-old to do this. You can play this game. I play it on the PC.
David on the in the chat is saying story mode. Okay, it's called story mode. I don't know what story mode is.
Turn it on and sit down and play, and you'll be playing, dude, and you'll have a good time. It's a lot of fun, and it's great escapism. It's for me, I do it late night when everyone is winding down or done for the day, and I get a couple hours to just goof off, and I've been having a great time with that game, and I love the original one as well. And it's possible for anyone to play. And like I said, I just play on the PC. I use the Steam app, and I downloaded the game, and it was delivered to me the day it came out, and I just used the keyboard controls because I can't do it with all the buttons and stuff. I need keyboard controls because then my fingers are they're all over the place here on the keyboard.
It's amazing to me because, the dynamics of our friendship, I've typically been the guy that adopts technology a little quicker. I'm a little more facile with it. And Mac, when it comes to Star Wars, man, I'll learn whatever I got to learn. I'll adopt new habits, new skills. Nothing's going to stop me from enjoying new Star Wars. I'm going to buy the Laserdisc player. I'm going to buy the DVD player, the Blu-ray player, the 4K. That's how you get Mac motivated. You just dangle some Star Wars in front of him.
That's it. Yeah. Hey, this is the only way I can experience. The only thing I haven't adapted to along the way, and it has presented me from enjoying some Star Wars, is I don't do the virtual reality headsets. I just never have had the motivation.
That's getting harder to resist, man. The more I see of it, it's getting harder to resist. I feel like I have a better shot at that because I don't know. Maybe the folks in the chat can tell me if that's harder or easier than the.
We tried to get you to do virtual reality. It's Star Wars Celebration in Orlando, and you put that thing on your head for about 3 seconds, and that was it.
I know. It was. I'm trying to remember. No, it was just goggles, wasn't it? It wasn't like a whole helmet or anything, was it?
It was just goggles. I think there was some went over your ears as well.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta thank you. I celebrated a birthday in March and ended up going to the White Sox game with Tyler and Mocked and Suds. And Suds he gave me a belated birthday gift, and it was so cool on a couple of different levels. Number one, I love tequila. I mean, that's the stuff that turns me into El Diablo sometimes.
Does tequila love you as much as you love tequila?
No. It's a very one-way relationship. Let me just say. And I haven't really been drinking it as much over the last few years, but this is irresistible because it's a Star Wars tie-in. he gave me some Sincoro tequila, which is awesome, but you might recognize the bottle. The bottle was featured in season 3 of The Mandalorian when Mando brought the covert to Navarro and Grief Karga presented him with this bottle. This is the actual prop. You'll see it right there in that photo.
Look, there
they
it is.
doctored it up a little bit. You know, they put a little white label and a maroon label on it.
Yeah, put some greeblies on that.
Exact same bottle. The exact same bottle. You know, so
cool.
Prop collectors are going crazy for this, and they're snatching it up off this. You know, prop collectors are nuts. Philip Wise in Dallas, he was on the phone with me for over the course of a month telling me to check out my local Binny's Beverage Depot because there was some bottle of cognac that was featured on the Battlestar Galactica TV show.
I remember you talking about that. That's right.
I'm like, God,
Jim Mac, I hear sources that there's some up there by you.
Yeah, there are sources. He had the sources. I'm calling the stores. I'm going there. They're like, we don't have this. I'm like, well, my buddy in Dallas he's like, listen to you talk. Your buddy in Dallas. What do you want it for anyway so badly? Well, it's a Battlestar Galactica prop.
It's a Battlestar Galactica, man. Don't you watch?
Hello? Hello? They hung up on me. So you know what? I haven't had it. I'm gonna have a little taste of this just to celebrate.
Let's do it. Live taste test right here. 708-866-1737. Guys, this is we're turning the show over to you. So we've got a number of you joining us live. So please give us a call. Put Tyler to work. We got Tyler Page, our trusty cheers. Oh, cheers. Cheers. Our trusty call screener and the official program observer. Hey, Tyler, good to see you, buddy.
Oh, he's got to return the Jedi Cup.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, is that the Burger King vintage?
No,
yes.
This is it's like a in the same vein.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's in the same. I love those. The Burger King cups are some of my all-time favorite collectibles. But it's great to see you. We want to put you to work. We already got a couple of callers in the queue, but as I said, this is all you guys. We're turning it over to you. 708-866-1737. And we want to make sure that we are chatting with everybody. Of course, Patreon supporters get pushed to the head of the line, and we know who you are and who you aren't. So, Tyler, we'll check in with you in a little bit, as we always do.
You know, maybe you unfortunately got left on hold during one of the Mandalorian after shows because there were times when we couldn't get to every call. So give us a call. Tell us what you wanted to say. Tonight's the night to do it.
Before we jump to the callers, I do want to mention that couple of quick things. I went to see Return of the Jedi for the 40th anniversary.
Oh, yes.
And took the kids. And that was a real thrill for me because, one, the kids have never seen an original Star Wars film on the big screen. They've only seen the Disney era stuff. And Return of the Jedi was my first Star Wars theatrical experience. So it was a real full circle moment. There were a couple of comments from my daughter like, Dad, why are we going to see a movie that we can watch on our phones or on our iPads? And I go, shut your mouth, child. How dare you? But it really was, it was great. It was just a fantastic 2+ hours of thinking back to all those times as I was a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, seeing Return of the Jedi with my dad, with my grandma, with my mom, with my cousins. It just brought back so many memories. And I know it's not the original theatrical cut. I know. This 40th anniversary re-releases brought out all of the purists. I don't know if you noticed. They're still upset. And it dawned on me that we've had the special editions longer than we ever had the original theatrical cuts. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of nostalgia wrapped up in those because those are the ones we remember, sticking the VHS tapes and taping them off of HBO and things like that. But I've kind of grown numb to the differences, honestly. I don't sit there and go, oh yeah, this is when it was Lop neck and this is when it was. If anything, flipping them around, it flips around on me. I see, the despecialized edition, and I go, oh, this feels weird. It's kind of a cool nostalgia trip. But Jim, I don't know about you, but doesn't bother me. The special editions, those added scenes, they're nostalgic in some ways too, because I remember being in the theaters in '97 and seeing those, and that was mind-blowing at the time.
It doesn't bother me. Their mere existence doesn't bother me. As a matter of fact, I always enjoy looking at the changes that get made. It's just a different way to look at the film.
It's like spot the changes. Were there any new ones in this release?
Nothing's going to strip away from my brain cells the hundreds upon 500 times I've seen the original film and its original presentation in the theaters. More than anything, I've seen that original edit. That's the Star Wars film I've seen the most in the theaters, still to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all I did from 1977 to 1983. It came out every summer. And you bet I was at that movie theater more than once when they were re-released. And a lot of times it'd be a situation where my mom would drop me and Billy Mack off at the place and we'd sit through it twice. And I'd be like, I wonder if I can make this one bag of Skittles last me for 2 full screenings. And I remember I remember popping that last Skittle as the this was actually Empire Strikes Back. I popped the last Skittle as they were showing the Rebel fleet at the end of the film, and they're getting ready to say goodbye to the Falcon as Lando and Chewie are off on their Han rescue mission.
I want you to take her.
I remember popping that Skittle in my mouth. No, the end of the film, the very end of the film.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And I was like, I popped that last Skittle in my mouth. I said, I did it. I made one bag of Skittles last through 2 full screenings of Empire Strikes Back. And I started like...
Empire. I thought you were talking about Jedi. My bad. I'm sorry.
And so I started just like fantasizing in my head about these newspaper headlines. Local boy makes bag of Skittles last. Things like that. Like there was a big ticker tape parade for me and everything when I walked out of the theater. It was huge. It didn't play out that way, but I was still very impressed with how conservative I was with my Skittles intake during that afternoon. I thought it was a test of willpower, stamina.
That's like
longevity.
when you're eating the marshmallow cereal and you try to just eat all of the kibble parts first and leave just the marshmallows at the end, like you're eating the Count Chocula.
Wow.
Can you do it? Do you have the willpower?
That's something reserved only for royalty where I'm from, my friend. But so I was so impressed that I was able to do it. But going back to the theater, just to address what you said about the original cuts compared to the special editions and all that. I don't mind the existence of the special editions. I don't hate on the changes that were made, even if I don't really care for them. But I just wish that we as fans had the option to be able to add a Blu-ray of those original Star Wars films as they were presented theatrically in the 70s and 80s. Those are the cuts that made film history. Those are the cuts that made Star Wars the legend that it is today. Those are the cuts that had the hugest impact on film going. And Hollywood is an industry. Hollywood is a creative place. Hollywood, everything that surrounded Hollywood, merchandising, you name it. It all came out of those films. And whether or not George Lucas thought they were perfect at the time, they were revolutionary and state of the art and top of the pops. So I think that those cuts, just on a pure historical value, should always be made available.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yes,
I
in whatever
absolutely
format.
think so. Yep.
Whatever the format is of the contemporary times.
I would love to see them always accompany whatever the current flavor of the medium is. So if you buy it on 4K, you get whatever the potential highest quality of the original theatrical. And for the reasons that you say, Jim, because this isn't just about Star Wars fandom. We think that everything is about preserving for fandom and all of that. But there is a historical film history context to these, especially that first one.
Especially
all of
the
them,
first
really,
one.
but that first one in particular really should be preserved.
And all of that gets stripped away from the product now because it's all of this modern makeup all over it. And so you don't really see it for what it really is. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
Now, Return of the Jedi, I was resistant to go. I'm like, Return of the Jedi in the theaters again. How many times have I seen it? Last time I saw Jedi was 10 years ago for the 30th anniversary, and I saw it at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood. And what a crew we had with us. Me and Logan, Topher Grace, and Sam Witwer, and Andy and Patrick from Fallout Boy, and Dutch and Stanton, and some guys from the 501st that were real friendly with, Scott Allen. And boy, we had a great time at that. But you know what they showed was a scratchy edition, a scratchy print of the 1997 special edition.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, man, you know, I was a little disappointed with that because it was just, you can tell it was an aged film. And so then I started hearing about this Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary screening that kicked in last weekend and wasn't really proactive about it. I didn't work out time with my family to go. I didn't buy tickets in advance. And then I saw all the buzz online last Friday, everyone talking about going. So I did look into tickets and I was shocked to see that so many screenings were packed. I mean, all the seats were, I was like, what? I thought I'd be sitting in the theater by myself watching this.
Dude, it ended up in the top 5 for the weekend.
I know, it's outrageous. And so I was like, oh, well, you know, they're probably just showing that old special edition scratchy print. And then I got word. It began to trickle out that it was the 2011 Blu-ray that they were screening. And I was like, well, I've never seen that on a theater screen before. I have to go. But I couldn't coordinate with my sons who have never seen Return of the Jedi in the theater. And that bummed me out. I could not. They're working.
Well, they're men now. Yeah, right. They're
not little kids. And also there's a lot of competition this week because those little guys, they went to the theater twice. They saw the new Evil Dead. And then today Dylan was out of here to see Guardians.
Oh, yeah. So, Guardians 3 came out this weekend. Yeah.
So I just didn't stand a chance on my nostalgia trip. But Michael seemed more interested, but he just couldn't clear his schedule. And he's working every day and playing guitar at night. And so he couldn't make it happen. So I ended up going by myself to, mid-afternoon screening. And,
are you like me? Do you still, whenever you see them on the big screen, do you still see things I don't know if I've ever seen that before, noticed that before. I find myself more interested in what's going on in the background than in the foreground because I know everything that's going on in the foreground. So my eyes are peeled, especially like Jabba's palace. Yeah, you were like, hey, look for the Sebulba, and then you'll know which version that you're watching.
Yeah, I think I was like taking in more of the background, especially of Jabba's palace. Yeah, and taking note of where certain characters were placed in the scene and they were all recognizable. Whereas I was so used to growing up with the VHSs and stuff where a lot of that detail was lost in the shadows. And it was just like a crowd of indistinguishable shadows in the background. Now with the clarity, and by the way, it was so beautifully crystal clear and it might have been a little dark to me, overall, it felt like maybe it could have been a little, just a scooch brighter. It felt like very dark, but on the whole, it was the most crispest, cleanest screening of Return of the Jedi I'd ever experienced. Yeah, and to just get the thrills after not seeing Star Wars in the theater for 3.5 years. I did skip The Empire Strikes Back when that came out during the pandemic. Because it was a pandemic.
Well, I think a lot of people skipped it. I'm going to watch it on Disney Plus. I will tell you, so the movie starts and my wife's sitting next to me and the kids are over here. And as soon as you see the Darth Vader Star Destroyer come overhead, I whisper over to my wife. I'm like, Command station, this is ST-321, code clearance blue. We've started our approach. She's like, are you going to do this the whole movie? I said, no, I'm not going to do it the whole movie.
I've had that talk. I've had that.
She's like, I know you know Star Wars. I know.
One time when FAO Schwartz was still around, they had a floor where half the floor was dedicated to Star Wars. And they had like a big ad in there, and they had a monitor in the wall where they would screen the original film on a loop. And I was downtown Chicago on Michigan Avenue, so I went to their big flagship store there. And this is back in the 90s. I was on a lunch break or something from work, and I walked up there, and there was a dude standing in front of the screen reciting every line of, he didn't work there or anything. He was just a nerd like me, but he was standing there, he was reciting every line. And I remember the dude, he was a bicycle messenger because he had on like the spandex pants and he had the bike helmet with him and the bag and everything. He was just standing there reciting every line as it was happening. And he was into it, man. I didn't rock that boat. Let me just say. But I was up there for about 15 minutes and the guy didn't miss a single word of dialogue. And I was really just taken in by his devotion to this activity he was engaged in. So naturally, I went home that night and gave it a shot myself.
See how well you could do?
I did pretty damn good. And then Wendy walked in about half an hour into it. And she just stood there and watched me. And I was like, I was like, now I'm struggling even like just pull a random line out of my head. Yeah, it's like, what should I say?
The pressure is on now.
I can't even come up with a line of dialogue. It's like, I went to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. I'm like holding my hand up to her, like, don't interrupt. You can
see how far you can
with your
go.
Friends. Waste time with your friends when your chores are done.
Line.
There, now it's all coming back to me. See, I just needed the line.
Yeah. It's definitely like that. It's like a song lyric, right?
Yeah.
Where you might not be able to just grab it out of thin air, but somebody feeds you a line and you're like, boom, you go right into it.
The muscle memory kicks in.
Oh yeah.
And then next thing you know, you're laying out the entire script verbally.
Ne Jabba Wonka and a gift. Gift what gift? Ne Jabba no bada.
But like, so I didn't have any big revelations while watching, sitting there in the theater. But what I took note of was all the rushes that I was experiencing were all in the right place. When the crawl comes on, I mean, talk about something we can just take for granted. But when you're in a theater and the lights go dark and it's like, boom, Star Wars and the crawl, and you're just like, holy crap, man.
I did lead the theater into an applause when it said a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
I let out a whoop.
Oh, you did?
And then I started applauding, and then the whole theater started to applaud. I did have some smart-ass teenagers behind us that thought it was appropriate to laugh in places that I didn't think were appropriate, like Yoda's death scene, and they're giggling and they're being just jerks. And I didn't want to embarrass my kids by turning, I didn't want to be that guy, the get off my lawn guy. Ooh. But they were bugging me because every once in a while there'd be a really poignant moment. They'd be like, you could tell it was like a couple of meathead guys trying to impress the girls they were with. And then when the lights went up at the end, I turned, I looked, and they were all in costume. I'm like, they're fans. What am I going to say?
They're bringing it. They're bringing it.
My son, of course, my son, he's like, Dad, do you think they know who you are? And I'm like, I don't think they know. I don't think they care. I don't think they know or care.
Whatever you do, don't tell them. Okay.
Yeah, right. Oh, man. Okay, let's go to the phones. We promised phones. We're going to be turning the show over to you guys for the next hour and a half or so. So let's do it. Let's start off with a, do we have no Patreons? Tyler, do we have no Patreons in the queue? So we can just All right. Well, let's go with.
It's the beginning of the month. Everybody quit. They all quit at the beginning of the month, and they'll be back.
Let's go with Noah. Noah is joining us all the way from Illinois. Hey, Noah, you're on with Rebel Force Radio. Happy May the 4th to you, buddy.
Hey, you guys.
Hey,
just
Noah.
a couple things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say I've been stuck in a tractor planting corn and soybeans for like 15 hours a day.
Whoa.
And catching up with you guys.
You're like Luke Skywalker on the farm.
I don't know. It's yeah. But it's made it so much more enjoyable catching up on you guys. So thank you. Also,
thank you.
The way you guys mix your audio, I don't have to go up and down. Sorry, that's random, but just top-notch stuff.
Well,
there you go.
You're talking to one of the masters here, so I'm sure that is all by design.
Thank you.
But since you guys were talking about Return of the Jedi, I actually went Sunday night, and this was the first time. I'm 30 years old, and this is the first time I've ever seen an OT movie in the theater. And so I drugged my 53-year-old dad to it at 9 o'clock at night, and I kind of had to
that
nudge
poor
him
old
snore,
soul.
but,
53, you say, huh?
Yeah.
Did you have to clear the
Yeah.
head with the nursing home before you took him out of there? At 53, poor old guy.
Hey, I was pretty impressed he agreed to go, but that's kind of my point, is that Star Wars is such a big thing in our family that is like, Dad, hey, I'm going to this late movie because I've never seen this in a theater before. And he was like, yeah, that sounds good. I'll go.
That's awesome.
So it was just a really cool experience.
What were your what did you think seeing Jedi on the big screen? I assume you've seen it many times at home. And what was there anything that surprised you, jumped out, things that you hadn't seen before?
Yeah, it was the details in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I have never noticed so much stuff going on in the background. Specifically, when the Emperor comes to the Death Star, if you look out the back, there's a whole bunch of ships flying in the background. And for some reason, I've never noticed that before.
Oh, yeah, his entourage is awesome. It's so impressive. It's like every TIE fighter practically in the fleet. I also noticed, I think this is the first time that I noticed the Probot in the lineup when they're all lined up to greet him.
Oh, yes.
There's a Probot just
when the
hanging
Emperor
out there.
shows up.
Okay.
Yeah,
At the hangar. Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, they certainly lay out all of it for him. And you know, I'm in there, I'm studying McDiarmid's makeup, and you know, he's told the story. By the way, I call BS publicly here on an Ian McDiarmid Star Wars convention standby.
Oh, okay.
Of his. He
Let's hear
claims, claims, we'll see what you think, Noah. Ian McDiarmid has this very funny story about how when they were filming Return of the Jedi and he was on the Emperor throne, that the auto turn of the throne didn't work. So underneath his robes, he's just moving his feet, and he's moving his feet to like shift and turn the chair. Yeah, like Jimmy Mac's doing right now. Yeah. And I was like making a point, since, you know, his feet were, you know, 3 feet wide on the big screen, whatever. Jimmy Mac's doing a great reenactment of this, complete with the hood. That's nice. That's why Mac always wears hoodies, so he can do the Jedi thing. But the Palpatine's feet are resting on a little tray or a little riser or something. You can see the nubbins of his boots peeking out. So his feet are not on the floor. I think he is misremembering this, or he just needed a funny story to tell.
He's just making it up.
I think
These guys are
making it up.
actors,
Right.
theater guys. They just want to please an audience, you know. Truth be damned.
Then I'm thinking, is
And
it
I
like
think that
Tim
does
Conway,
happen.
you know, on like Dorf, where they're like got fake feet underneath the robes so he can spin?
Let me just say this, that there are certain accounts that these actors throw at us at conventions and stuff that I think is totally fiction. And the reason I believe this is because I've been watching this whole scene for a long time. And when Star Wars actors started going out on the convention in a big way, it happened in the mid-90s when a bunch of them got together and they did a tour called The Men Behind the Masks. You had Jeremy Bulloch, Peter Mayhew, David Prowse. I think Anthony Daniels may have sat in on one of those or in the early days, but then he elevated his own status out of there. But those three guys were the Men Behind the Masks. And I recall Jeremy Bulloch talking about his experiences on the set of Empire Strikes Back in these early days. And let's just say his recollection was kind of limited when he first started going on the convention circuit. But as time went on, Jeremy's memory suddenly came flooding back in a massive way to where all of a sudden he had lots of stories to tell and in great detail. Now, listen, I'm not saying anything to dispute the integrity of the late, great Jeremy Bulloch, who was a guy that I personally knew and loved very much. But I just think it's kind of interesting that all of a sudden these stories started to bubble up to the surface after more time had passed. Let's just say, Now, it could be because he was in conversation with so many different people about the past that definitely memories
Stuff
were
comes
triggered.
back. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And blanks were filled in by other people who were there along the way and told Jeremy stories that they remembered, and then he would incorporate it into his raps at the panels and things like that. But he always claims that there was this outtake where he screwed up the line. Instead of saying, put Captain Solo in the cargo hold, he said, put Captain Cargo in the Solo hold. And something like that, you'd think he told it so many times that maybe that outtake would appear somewhere along the way or something, but it never did.
You know what I'm wondering too, and it could be the same with the McDiarmid, is they do a lot of rehearsals. While they're making a movie, so it could have been that it was a rehearsal and the chair didn't work, and so he was doing the foot thing. Maybe Jeremy blew the line on a rehearsal; they weren't running film on it, so it is possible that the stories are right. But I because as soon as he showed up on the throne, I'm like, because that story was fresh in my mind because he told it at Star Wars Celebration Europe, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can see his knees wiggle since he's doing that foot thing underneath, and the feet are sitting on like a little rest. At least that's what it looked like to me, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it almost seems like they would have something for his feet to be on.
He's the emperor
if
of
the
the
chair
universe
is going to automatically move like that, there would be a platform there for the actor, so his foot doesn't get like snagged in there or something.
Can you imagine him getting dragged out of the chair, like
or the robe,
or the robe?
The robe, it like turns around. And he's all this like,
Ben Bamboo. This says his feet are on a squatty potty. That's kind of what it was like. His feet were on a platform. Hey, Noah, thanks for calling, man, and I'm glad that you got to experience the movie with your dad. Now, remember, chores first, okay?
He's his dad is
Thanks,
your
buddy.
dad is 53 years old. He's a member of the original Star Wars generation. Did he share any stories with you about
I already
the
let
first
him
time
go. I already let Noah go.
Oh,
Sorry.
for crying out loud.
Yeah, Mac would talk to these people all night long, each call. Sorry.
Well,
Noah, if you want to call back and talk about your dad's pedigree as a Star Wars fan, I should have asked that. I should have asked that. Okay. Who else we got here? Oh, this is one of our favorites. It's our dear friend Mariana's calling. Hello, Mariana. Happy Star Wars Day.
Hey, guys. Can
Hello.
you guys hear me? I'm using headphones.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, sorry. It's just I'm wearing headphones and they're wireless, so I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Well,
Can you
you're
hear me?
violating one of Jimmy Mac's rules for the call-in shows. No headphones. Go old school. Hold the phone to your ear.
Yeah, I mean, for best sound quality,
Sorry,
that's
can you
really
hear
the
me now?
case. And
No, we can hear you just fine, actually. We can hear you fine. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Put on speaker. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Happy
So,
Star Wars Day.
Happy 4th. Yeah. So I just wanted to call in to tell you guys how I'm so honored to be a part of the Rebel Force Radio community for the last 3 years.
Oh.
And today I was going through all my pictures and all my memories of everyone I've met in the Star Wars universe, and it's been such a great nostalgia trip for me.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And I wish, thank you. And something really cool, I posted it in the Facebook group, but I want to tell the viewers tonight and the callers or the listeners that today I shared my picture with Rosario Dawson at MegaCon again, and she reposted it on her Instagram story. So I made the cut.
Wow. You are now part of the tribe. That's
Rosario
great.
has shown a certain penchant for really diving into social media and rubbing elbows with fans and heaping praise on fans too, for like a case like this. She sees a photo she likes, and the next thing you know, you went from sharing it to your friends and us lucky guys and girls in the Star Wars Rebel Force radio community, but all of a sudden Rosario Dawson puts it out there and millions of people are seeing it. So jackpot for you.
Yeah, it's been great. Also, I wanted to tell you that I watched the first 4 episodes of Star Wars Vision Season 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
what'd you think?
I do see where you both. I see where you guys are coming from. Like, this is very, very different. This is very like a little step outside the usual Star Wars realm. But I would have to say my favorite one of the first 4 is the pod racing one, or the I Am Your Mother from Aardman. The stop motion.
That's the one I haven't seen yet. That's where I stopped right before that one.
Oh, well, I will tell you this. Well, not to spoil it. I promise I won't spoil it for you, Jason, but I will say it was so cute because I loved the movie Wallace and Gromit, The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. I remember going to see it when I was a kid. I loved the Wallace and Gromit shorts, and I felt Wallace and Gromit humor from this little short, and it was so adorable.
No, I hear you, because there's even a visual familiarity with Wallace and Gromit and that particular shorts, the I Am Your Mother shorts. Yeah, and it does kind of play as sort of sitcom-y in my book, that particular short, but it also felt like the one that was the most steeped in the actual Star Wars universe. Out of all 8 of the shorts, that was the one where I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm on a planet in the Star Wars universe. And I didn't get the vibes from any of the other shorts, which I think is so unfortunate. It was just randos having conversations, and then all of a sudden lightsabers would bust out and there'd be a 3-minute battle, and then they would have more conversation. I didn't understand the connection. What I would like to see from Star Wars Visions is take the concept that publishing has used for their certain point of view anthology books.
Yes.
That's the take where you're taking very well-known moments in the Star Wars universe and giving that Rosencrantz and
Guildenstern,
Brillo pad or whatever his Guildenstern. That's it. And give it that different perspective. A character's going through the same story, but seeing it from a different perspective and telling it from that way, because then I think it would steep us more in the universe immediately by putting us in a familiar situation. But then you can introduce your new characters and their issues and their personalities into the Star Wars universe. I think that'd be more effective. But I'm glad to hear, Mariana, that you're liking Star Wars Visions and you're getting something out of it.
So, Mariana, Star Wars Day happens sort of at almost the midpoint of the year, just about. So far for you, I mean, you've been living the Star Wars life. If you follow Mariana on social media, you see her going to a lot of different conventions and meeting various celebrities. We know who your favorite is. We know how much you love Hayden Christensen. By the way, I heard he's available. I did not know that he and Rachel Bilson were no longer together. I learned that today.
Kidding.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
You know, I love that makes me respect the heck out of them even more. The fact that I didn't know it, because that tells me that they're putting their daughter first. They're not playing up the tabloids and all of that stuff. So I thought that was I thought that was great. But what is the highlight, Mariana, so far of your Star Wars year of 2023? There's been a lot of them. Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah, there is. But before I comment on that, I want to say I totally agree with you, because this is what I love about him, is that he's very humble. He's very private. He and Rachel, I think, signed a no photo clause for their child after she was born, from what I read. And I remember, Jimmy and Jason, you told the story when those paparazzis came after him at a farmer's market. And I was just, my goodness, these people are just so rude. He wants to be with his family, you know? So I respect him so much for being very private with his family, you know? So
good grounded guy. Good grounded guy.
My favorite, yes, he is. Yes, he is. And very respectful with the fans. I have not heard a single negative thing about him, I will say. No. So my favorite moment so far has been seeing him again at MegaCon, because like I said, even though he didn't remember me, he was still so kind, and he just gave me a hug out of nowhere, 2 hugs actually. So that was very sweet.
That is nice. You know what happens after he remembers you, Mariana, is you get a restraining order. That's been my experience. As soon as they start to remember you from con to con,
restraining order.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd get that in my collection.
That was funny. I'm sorry. Before I leave, guys, I wanted to ask you one more question.
Sure.
Really quickly.
It's all right.
So you guys were talking. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm a little hyper right now. Sorry, because I think I drank too much Coca-Cola.
We all are. Star Wars Day.
We're in the same club. Don't you worry about a thing. You know.
I sometimes drink Coca-Cola with this, but anyway.
Yeah. So you guys were talking about like the actors talking about the stories and like things behind the scenes, what you were mentioning with the David Prowse and Anthony Daniels, and how sometimes some of the stories can, just be, played up to the audience.
Right.
But sometimes the stories, many years after the shows or the TV shows are made, actors get very candid about, their opinions. And I don't know if you guys probably heard about this, but I hope I don't get controversial, but Temuera Morrison made some comments in Supernova. You heard about that? And He has a sense of humor. He has a sense of humor, and he was doing it for laughs. But there's some truth behind those comments. So, do you think that we might hear more actors kind of like spill little experiences regarding how they feel and how their characters have been treated by Star Wars? Because, like I said, I love Star Wars. I'm so honored to be a part of this fandom. But a lot of us really care about these characters, and we want to make sure that they're being handled with the proper care. Right, guys?
Well, sure. And I think that with Tem, so we can throw Tem's comments up here. Jim, would you do your best Tem Morrison? Are you able to see this? Can you see it? Because Jim was saying I like reading Tem in Tem's voice when he reads a quote.
Let me see. Okay, there's the Tem Morrison warm up. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Tatooine, like a bantha, Tatooine, Boba. Okay. Well, that Mando guy stole a few chapters of my book. It was painful watching him turn up with it got blurry. With some black sword. I can't read it.
Oh,
man,
okay.
the whole thing went south because it got all blurry.
I'm sorry, I don't know why I got.
But Tem was saying that. I mean, is that for real? Oh, here, I have it. That Mando guy stole a few chapters of my book. It was painful watching him turn up with some black new lethal sword. Is this for real? The way he turned up in my book of Boba. He just destroyed everybody. I'm sure this guy is ruining my I'm sure this guy is ruining my show, but I couldn't say anything. I'm not the writer, so I have to bear it. What is Tem talking about? So he's... is this real? Is this from the Onion?
This is real.
Is this real? What's the context of this conversation?
Mariana, you brought it up. Do you recall, was this something he said at a convention?
Yes, at a Q&A at Supernova Comic-Con.
Yes.
I need to hear what he
someone
actually
asked him
said.
about his experience. Yeah, someone asked him about his experience with the Book of Boba Fett.
All right.
And then,
all right.
you know, he just,
I know
think
what's
he just
going
said that,
on
but it's a sense of humor and it's his joke, you know.
Right.
But
It's his sense of humor on display. He's tongue in cheek here in this. I've seen Tem. He gets goofy and crazy anytime a microphone is placed in front of him. One time I was sitting there, it was me, Tem, and Logan, and we were in Japan. I put a microphone on the table, and all of a sudden, Tem was just like putting a nickel in the socket and watching him go. I mean, he just started doing all that dancing that he does and all that stuff. And he was just doing it to crack up Daniel. But listen, you cannot take him seriously when he's saying stuff like this. He's being protective of his character. Yeah. But I mean, he's team Boba all the way. And for him to like show jealousy of the Mandalorian, that to me seems almost naturally hilarious. And, you know, he doesn't mean, he's not to be taken seriously with that, saying he destroyed everybody and ruining my show. He's just playing up some sort of like friendly Mandalorian rivalry that he developed up in his head. He's just being a goof. Tem is like that. He's just trying to entertain. He's trying to be silly and goofy.
Now,
and
behind every joke, though, Jim, is a tiny revolution. And so is it possible that there could be a little bit of Tem being real here?
Okay. Maybe, but let's face it, the only reason his character is back is because of the Mandalorian. You know, he was slotted into season 2 and then they spun him off for this Book of Boba Fett thing, which, you know, I thought was great. I loved it. You know, it's not without its flaws, but I think it's a lot of fun. And I appreciate the character evolution for Boba, because now how many Mandalorians are there now? There's a bajillion of them. So strip Boba from that whole scene and make him an individual, something totally different. This is a guy who grew up as a clone on Camino, surrounded by a bunch of little kids who look just like him. So he finally gets away from Camino, puts his dad's armor on, and now he's surrounded by a bunch of people who look just like him wearing the same armor. Can't Boba Fett get a break? Give the guy a break. If he wants to become some sort of spiritual shaman who's snorting spice and lizards up his nose, let him do it. Let him do it. He's finally found his own personality.
I never thought of that. Boy, this poor guy cannot get... Everybody's just following his act, right? Everybody's
just wants to be his own
routine.
person.
Right.
He can't be his own person. He's surrounded by clones. They all look just like him. He puts on his dad's armor, and so what does he do? He naturally takes up his dad's occupation. So he's still never making decisions for himself. So he becomes this bounty hunter who somehow gets taken in by a Tatooine Sand People tribe, and you know, that's some real character development. Otherwise, Boba Fett is just one of the guys now. You know,
Mariana, had you not called, we wouldn't have discovered all of this, and it's Boba Fett's secret desire to be a real boy. To be an individual.
Maybe, you know.
Thank you, Mariana. Good to hear from
listen,
you.
I can relate with Boba Fett because one of these days I'm going to buy the car I've always wanted to buy. My whole life I've accepted nothing but hand-me-downs and cars that I drive around based on situations. Oh, you have kids, you have to drive an SUV. You know,
I think I
like
know
that.
your dream car. I think I know.
Do you?
Dodge Charger, right?
Well, it's a toss-up between the Charger and the Challenger.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be one of those. It's going to, in the next 5 years,
it's going to happen.
Be pulling up to the convention center in an all-black Dodge Challenger, and people are going to flock around my car, and I'm going to be saying, "I told you so." I don't know who I'm saying "I told you so" to, but
yourself. You're looking in the rear view mirror. I told you we'd do it. I told you we'd do it.
When I was a kid, I bought a '78 Monte Carlo for $1,200, and it was the greatest thing I ever did. I was 18, and I've never had the car that I wanted since then. One of these days, and so that's how I think Boba feels. You know, he finally gets away from Camino. He could be his own man. He could be himself. And then all of a sudden he's surrounded by these yahoos wearing T-shaped visors, and they're all like, they have the cool gear he has and everything. No, throw that stuff away.
As you
get
say
get
that,
a burlap sack and go hang out in the desert with a bunch of religious weirdos.
You know, as you say that, I'm kind of glad now that he didn't show up in this season of Mandalorian, because he'd just been another one in the crowd. He'd have just gotten lost.
He would have been heavily shoehorned in. Now that's something we can take out of Tem's comments and really look for some truth in there, because he does say that he was told he was going to be included in season 3. I don't know if you have those comments, but I saw them.
Those comments in particular, let's see. I
saw those when the story broke, and I think there is some truth.
Here it is. Yeah. Here it is. He says, I was supposed to be in the Mandalorian season 3, but nobody rang me up. I was waiting for the phone call in New Zealand, waiting to give up.
I'm sure
waiting
he was
and wanting to give up.
He may have been told about Mandalorian season 3 when the old game plan was still in effect, with Rangers of the New Republic expected to pick up a certain share of the storytelling. When that project got blown up, then a lot of the development that was going into that show got siphoned into the Mandalorian season 3. And so as a result, then that changed everything, you know, that changed the course of the way season 3 was going to go, and eliminated any inclusion of Boba Fett that might have been bubbling on the surface when it was still in the developmental stage. But you ask me, to squeeze him in there to somewhere into season 3, that would have been, you know, two's company, three's a crowd.
to say the least. All right, Peter Beiser, jumping in with the super chat, says, going to be late to the party tonight, seeing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but a very happy May the 4th to the best star in Star Wars community ever. You all bring me a ton of joy. Well, likewise, Peter, you bring us a lot of joy as well.
What a great guy he is. I've hosted many Q&As with Peter Beiser. He's an RFR VIP on Patreon. Check out Patreon. I mean, yeah, RFR hasn't been around for the last couple of weeks, but 4 fresh podcasts have dropped on Patreon. We had a couple editions of the Q&A. We had the Babu Freaks. We had RFR RPG drop in this week. It's been really busy, really fun. Peter Beiser does this great Q&A where he pairs craft beers with the 6 films of the Star Wars original trilogy and prequel trilogy. And so he sent me all of the beer, and you can play along at home if you want, and sip the beer along with us if you order them all and you have them all cold and ready to go. But it was the most unique Star Wars conversation / podcast experience I think I've ever had. And that's just barely even scratching the surface of all the things that are going on at Patreon. Of course, as I said, the Babu Freaks are there. We have RFR Q&A dropping every week with shows about a great show with me and RFR VIP Sean Wanty talking about Mandalorian Season 3, what worked, what didn't work. There's a couple episodes, me and Rob from Chicago, we're talking about KOTOR. And Rob does this whole multimedia presentation with videos and audio clips and history. It's just really, really great. And it's always something different. You know, here on RFR, we tend to talk about the hot topics. We get hyper focused on the new releases and things like that. And we talk about the news. But with RFR Q&A, the conversation can go just anywhere. Each and every week, it's a different corner of the Star Wars universe that we're uncovering with our great RFR VIPs and me. I'm on every show and just having a blast. So yeah, check it out. RFR on Patreon, only $1 and you're listening, and you get access to hundreds of exclusive RFR podcasts that you can't hear anywhere else. Star Wars Oxygen can only be found at RFR on Patreon. It's the only place to find every single one of the Clone Wars Declassified roundtable discussions, full show video. When we're not live, full show video is a total exclusive for RFR on Patreon. And of course, early bird releases will be returning this summer. Oh my God, there's just so much stuff going on.
So much stuff.
So much stuff. So
Here's a super chat from David. David says, may the 4th be with you. Loving Survivor, loved Visions. That one short of The Dancer reminded me of how Josephine Baker was a French resistance spy. I obviously haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I'm looking for something a little more steep.
I have no idea who Josephine
I mean, I
Baker
love the
was,
historical shout outs and everything, but Visions really needs to get back into the Star Wars universe to have any effect on me as a fan. Quite honestly.
I was watching it, I had it on, and my wife was kind of half watching it, half on her phone, and the one episode was on where the girl goes into the cave and there's the ghost. There's this wailing, this really kind of annoying like ghost lady, and she goes, "Oh, what does that have to do with? What does this have to do with Star Wars?" And then all of a sudden, Ghost Lady pulls out a lightsaber, and she's like, give him a lightsaber, and there you go. Now it's Star Wars.
Well, that's how it gets revealed. That
Right.
These stories you're watching is actually connected to the Star Wars universe. Is the sudden presence of a lightsaber out of nowhere. I mean, it's almost comical how this is, rinse and repeat with these Visions things. It's yeah. They got to take that back to the shed and retool.
All right, here's a Patreon member, Chris. Chris calling from Florida. Hello, Chris. Thanks for waiting. You're on with Rebel Force Radio on a very happy May the 4th.
Hey, chut, guys. How you doing?
Chut.
Hey, so my first question's for Jimmy. How's that tequila?
Oh, yes, it's really good. I have a little bit left. I think it's very smooth. It's got a nice flavor. It doesn't really bite. It doesn't have any sort of, I hate when tequila has almost like a chemical vibe to it. This is really just very smooth, very good. If it's good enough for Grief Karga, it's good enough for me.
I got a question for Mac real quick. Are you going to, once you're done with the bottle, are you going to customize it so it looks like the prop? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I figured you'd
Yeah.
do that.
I'll be there with the paint. I'll be painting it.
You're gonna
Hopefully
be
the
one of those
tequila
annoying prop guys. You're gonna be on the forums.
I'm gonna be an annoying prop guy. You're damn Skippy. I'm gonna be an annoying prop guy. That's
all
me.
right. I'm sorry, Chris. This is your moment. This is your call.
No, you're good. I got distracted, and I saw Jimmy drinking it. I just had to ask the question, so I appreciate it.
It's good.
Jason, I had a similar experience to you. I took my two boys to go see Return of the Jedi this weekend. Had an absolutely fantastic time. Biggest difference for me, though, like one of your earlier callers, I was not around when the first one came out. When it first came out in the '83. So this was my first time seeing it in the big screen. It was awesome. And honestly, for me, it was incredible. You know how like when you see a movie and you're so blown away by the special effects, and they kind of lose its impact when you finally see it on your small screen. It was like the reverse of that. I've only ever known Return of the Jedi on a small screen. And so to see it on the big screen, and what I was telling Tyler is one of the things that really impressed me was just the quality of those old school matte paintings, particularly like the dish array on Endor or the stormtroopers in the hangar bay. Just these little things that I've known about because of all the behind the scenes material, but seeing them on the big screen, I was just so blown away by how beautiful they were.
Yeah, it really is. It really is art. And it, you know, the thing that came to my mind as you were talking, Chris, is I saw this quote on, or this clip of George Lucas on Instagram. And, you know, you're going through your feed and you see these sort of random things. And it was a quote of George. Mac probably knows the interview, where he's talking about the way films are done today. And he's talking about how films are now made by companies, run by people who don't care about movies and don't go to see movies. And it's not made by artists anymore. They're made by corporations and focus groups and all of that. And it really resonated with me because it's pretty prescient. I think the interview with George is at least 10 years old, if not more. I think it's pre-Disney sale, to be honest with you. And he really is ahead of his time as he's describing this. And I'd love to hear his thoughts on it now, because it is so much more homogenized and corporatized. Yeah. And some of the charm and the things that you're describing that you saw in Return of the Jedi are of the likes that we just won't see again, I don't think, unless a big change, because what you're talking about is real artists, unfettered maniacs, as we called them at ILM, just paving the way and innovating the way to tell these stories. And it's because they loved movies. And I just worry that so much of what we're consuming these days is being made, like George is talking about, by big corporations based on focus group polls, and not by people who just love it.
Yeah, you know, I agree. I agree. It's really become, super cookie cutter, I guess is the word I would say, particularly like within especially like in the Marvel universe. It's gotten to a point now where it's just like, turn them out. And we've all heard kind of like the behind the scenes drama with all the visual effects artists and how stretched thin they are, to where, they're assigned to so many projects now that they can't even pump out the kind of quality that you would even expect in modern times, just because of, the workload that they have. So that was just my impression on seeing the movie. Like you guys, I've seen it 1,000 times, but to see it on the big screen and to just see those little details. And it's funny that you mentioned that Sebulba thing. I've never even noticed that until this weekend. I never even knew it was in there.
That was a Blu-ray change, right? That was a Blu-ray change.
Yeah, I noticed. I thought it was because
it was and
it was darker. My screening, it just appeared the film was darker, and Sepulba didn't pop out of the screen like he does when I watch the Blu-ray on TV. And I call him Sebulba. I know he's not Sebulba, but he is a Sebulba. Okay. When I was trying to figure out which print they were showing, I asked Jason in a group text with FJ DeSanto was part of the group text. And I'm like, was it the version with Sebulba? And I think this sent FJ's head out into the stratosphere. He's like, Sebulba. He's trying to do the math. He was, just couldn't figure out what the hell I was saying. He's got the
slide rule out. He's trying to figure out the years.
Yeah. He had all the cards and pictures on the wall with a bunch of like yarn and thumbtacks, and he just couldn't break it down. It's like, Sebulba, what kind of weird alternate reality am I in right now? I do the same thing with Rhodians. I call them all Greedos,
Right,
I mean,
right.
that's just one of the things I've always kind of done. But yeah, Sebulba is in Return. Hey, you know what I love with Return of the Jedi, and it really popped out of the screen with this current theatrical run. It's a famous shot known internally at ILM as SB19. Do you know what SB19 is, Swank?
I do not. I don't know. Chris, do you know what SB19 is?
That's a new one on me.
Yeah, SB-19 is it was a shot that was built by Bill Kimberlin at ILM, and Bill has a great book too, which I recommend checking out. He shoots from the hip when he talks about his time working in the film industry and stuff. But he was one of those wizards at ILM who probably doesn't get the amount of acclaim he should get. But he devised SB-19, Space Battle 19. It's that great shot at the opening of the Battle of Endor up in space. Jason didn't even have to wait for me to describe the scene before he figured it out and put the shot up, a screen grab of the shot up on the screen. It's when the Millennium Falcon is pouring into the battle, coming right at the screen with tons of TIE fighters, TIE interceptors, TIE bombers, there's B-wings, there's A-wings, there's a million different things in the shot. It's like the establishing shot of the space battle going on, raging outside the Death Star too. And it's one of those shots. It was a shock and awe moment when Return of the Jedi was originally released. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about here, right? You know, even without the visual, you know, that great shot. And Bill Kimberlin developed that. And I just sat at the edge of my seat waiting for the 10 seconds or whatever that of that particular shot, just to see how it looked as the 2011 edition was being blasted on the screen. And I was sitting there just having a good old time, man. Yes, SB-19, all those ties popping in, Gregory Moorhead says in the chat. And it was amazing what they could do back in 1983, Peter Beiser. All mats and models. You know, this is there's the only thing that might have even seen, and they use a computer obviously to layer in all of the special effects on top of each other with that optical printer that they used. But this is pre-digital era, the laser bolts are painted on to the frame. It's the most amazing.
I gotta, while we're on this subject, I got a question for Mac, and Chris, you're welcome to join us on the discussion. But I know what a fan you are of the original A New Hope. I mean, that is the gold standard, I think, for Mac when it comes to Star Wars. And of course, you have the two very famous Death Star battles in both Star Wars and Jedi. And what's your take on the Death Star, now that it's fresh in your mind, having seen it in the theater, the run on the Death Star in Return of the Jedi compared to the run on the Death Star in A New Hope?
Well, I mean, the original trench run is like one of the single greatest moments in cinema history. It's shots like SB-19 and everything that really indicate to you that these guys are throwing everything at you, including the kitchen sink. They know that this is the grand finale. They're going for it. They're going to see how many elements they could get up on the screen, how fast and intense and exciting the action could be. When they fly when Lando and Nien Nunb fly the Falcon into the Death Star superstructure. What a visual on the big screen. Does that look not like amazing? And I've been playing the old Atari Return of the Jedi arcade game. And on one of the levels, you fly the Falcon into the Death Star superstructure and blow it up. And I had that fresh on my mind as I was sitting in the theater. Talk about being transported 40 years into the past and loving it, and everything being exactly as I left it.
Hey Jimmy.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm so hesitant to bring this up, but when you mentioned that the most recent run on the Death Star with Lando and Return of the Jedi, it's a case of art imitating art, and I'm hesitant to bring this up with another Star franchise. But that season finale of Picard, man, they pretty much copied that verbatim. in the most beautiful way possible. Enterprise.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And I have to say, when they first start, so Data flies the Enterprise into the Borg cube. Okay, it's nuts. If you haven't seen Picard season 3, you gotta see
it's
it.
awesome.
It's off the hook. Awesome. So Data flies the Enterprise into the Borg cube, and you know what? It's I don't know if this says something more about time or where my head is at. I didn't think of Return of the Jedi immediately. You know what I thought about? I thought about episode 7 when Rey flew the Falcon into the Star Destroyer that was crashed on Jakku. I thought of that first. I was like, look how crazy this is. She's flying it into another ship. You know, that's crazy. And so I immediately made that connection. But then Data had to go in there and actually blow up that weird whatever that was, that thing that powered the Borg cube, and he had to go in there and unleash the photon torpedoes on that bad boy. And yeah, very Jedi.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that until you brought it up, Chris. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for being a Patreon, and thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Appreciate it. All right.
Yeah, that was good.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. We got some more super chats we want to get to here. If I can bring them up here. But yeah, Picard season 3. It's Picard season 3 made me wish we had a Star Trek podcast just for a second, because I just wanted to go on and talk about how much I love it.
We'll be discussing more Picard in a couple of weeks on the show. Yeah, that's a tease. I'm not going to say why, but there's a damn good reason why we'll be talking a little bit of Trek, and it's going to be a blast. But I'll tell you this about how much Picard has infested the Star Wars fan community. I had a phone call with the gang at Rancho Obi-Wan the other night, and when we wrapped up the conversation, they were going to go wrap up season 3 of Picard. And I was like, oh, Picard at Rancho Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
What's happening? It's so great. I mean, it's just so great. It speaks to us. I mean, Star Trek The Next Generation filled a vacuum for me when Star Wars completely disappeared in the mid-'80s. And then in the late 80s, Star Trek The Next Generation hit screens, and it scratched an itch for me. Yeah. It really did. It kind of helped me get through the dark times of no Star Wars. And it gave me just another sci-fi franchise to really love. Yeah. And I loved The Next Generation. I absolutely adored it. I've seen every episode 300 times. I won't say 500.
I only got into Star Trek because my mother got so tired of renting Star Wars movies from the video stores for me that she brought home Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock, which at the time was a new release on VHS. And that was my entry into Star Trek. And then I made the connection to it being related to that weird show that's on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. on this channel, growing up, and like, oh, that's the same characters as on that old TV show. And then Next Generation a few years later started. And yeah, I'm with you. I think there's plenty of love in this heart for both franchises. I know where my loyalties are. I don't get confused out there, but and I almost hit Q actor John Delancey with my car once. So it all comes back. Eternal War says Visions season 2 was fine to watch once, but ultimately it is uninteresting to me without being part of the overall Star Wars story. I agree, and I'm with Mac. I think that if you really want to let these artistes, these auteurs in the Star Wars sandbox, then open up the toys that everybody wants to play with, which is some of the more recognizable characters, and have them play around with maybe scenes we didn't see, the other side of the camera. Yeah, let's see some of that. Like, and you made a great point with the Star Wars A Certain Point of View books that they've done for both,
which I don't particularly love those books. But Star Wars transfers to the pages of a book much differently than it transfers to frames in a film or a TV show. So I mean, you can't deny the fact that there's a big separation between the two. I'm just talking about the approach that they took, the angle. I think that would work really well with Star Wars Visions, is to take familiar scenes from the original trilogy or the prequels or even the sequels and expand upon them from different perspectives, from characters who may have been there, maybe on screen or maybe just off screen, and fill in. I mean, that's the best way to fill in the blanks, as opposed to Star Wars Visions, which is a reimagining. It's basically trying to foister all of these ideas out of Star Wars that might not necessarily be Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's like the different takes and stuff. I'd rather see Star Wars getting done correctly as opposed to a different take on Star Wars. And I fear that sometimes we lean too much on the different take as opposed to just doing Star Wars and doing it right.
Yeah, I totally agree. Someone else who agrees, I'm sure, is N64 Rescue. Brothers, happy May the 4th. Disney Star Wars has been inconsistent, but RFR is perfect. Y'all make being a fan way more fun. Thank you both. That's what we're here for.
If we were perfect, this show would be very boring. Very boring. I mean, come on.
Moose says, happy May the 4th to my favorite Canon companion, Rebel Force Radio. That's very kind. Thank you, Moose. Appreciate it. And Tanya, who's here all the time on our live stream, says, rewatch Patton Oswalt's Star Wars filibuster scene from Parks and Rec to celebrate 5/4. We panned down from the twin sons of Tatooine. # prophet. May the Force be with you. That's a great scene. My daughter just got into Parks and Rec. She hasn't made it to that episode yet, but I'm sure that she'll come to me when she sees that episode as if I've never heard of this thing, despite the show being a decade old.
Make sure you show her the complete unedited filibuster. You can find it on online, but I mean it's heavily edited down in the actual Parks and Rec episode. The full 7 minutes, just Patton Oswalt just like barfing out all of his fandom at once. It's that's worthy of seeing. And also I do need to mention, this week we saw the end of the Goldbergs, which Patton Oswalt, of course, played a very important role as the voice of adult Adam Goldberg looking back on his past. And, he was present for every episode of that. And while the Goldbergs had gotten long in the teeth, or long in the tooth, I guess I should say, it was always a source of amazing Star Wars shout outs and references and silly mentions and things. So maybe as we get the weekly RFR back up and rolling here in the month of May, we can do a little retrospective of some of the greatest Star Wars moments from the Goldbergs.
All right, let's go to Keegan from Wisconsin, also a Patreon supporter of us here. Keegan, thanks for your patience. And what's on your mind on this May the 4th?
Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. Loud and clear.
Hi, Keegan.
Awesome. Hey, Jimmy, I'm just right upstairs from you in Wisconsin up here. Wanted to say hello.
All right, because the only one home is my wife, and I was just getting very nervous when you said that. I was about to go meet you face to face.
I'm right upstairs right now.
And the phone call is coming from in the house. All right, Keegan. Yeah, hey there, up in Wisconsin. Yeah. Yeah, hey there.
I wanted to thank you guys. I actually took off an entire week of work to celebrate not just Star Wars Day, but a whole week of Star Wars. Like as soon as my PTO came in, I had to tell my boss, like, oh yeah, I'm going on like a family vacation, but I've just been at home doing Star Wars stuff for the entire week.
Wow, man, you took a Star Wars vacation. Wow.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Where are you? Where are you up there beyond the Cheddar Curtain? Where are you in Wisconsin?
In the greater Milwaukee metropolitan area, but I'm
so
more
you're not
exactly
far.
in Menominee Falls.
Oh, Menominee
Oh, yeah, I'm
Falls, home of Leinenkugel. I know my way around Wisconsin. We should go meet up at a fish fry some night at the supper club. Yeah, hey there. We'll have a Brandy Alexander, you know. Yeah. I know way too much about Wisconsin through my past radio history, but hey, it's great to hear from you. If you ever have an opportunity to join us for an RFR hangout, we do Patreon hangouts, and we just announced our most recent one. It's going to be happening here in the Chicago area in early June. So for details, you want to go to Patreon, RFR on Patreon.
I get the notices, but I just have a 9-month-old. So
oh boy,
I'm sure you guys understand.
Oh
yeah.
I'm sure.
So wait a minute, Keegan. How you got a 9-month-old? This isn't much of a vacation. Let's be honest.
Actually, I dressed him up in Star Wars onesies or Star Wars outfits. Star Wars
it's all a theme.
Yeah,
it's
no idea.
It's like he's a hostage. This 9-month-old is. You're dressing him up in Star Wars costumes.
Yeah, he's strapped to the chair, and I'm just forcing him to watch.
I remember those days.
Is a little boy or is a little girl? Little boy or little girl?
I remember those days.
Little boy.
Little boy. What's his name?
Dwayne. He's named after my grandfather.
Oh, Dwayne. Well, congratulations on the 9-month-old. That's great. That's a fun age. 9 months. I mean, you know, they're holding their head up now and everything. They're not too fragile. It's good times.
Yeah.
His motor functions are getting better every day.
Yeah.
We had a bit of sleep regression where he doesn't sleep through the night, but
yeah, that can happen.
His motor skills are getting better. Listen to the Star Wars dad. Let's cut to the chase. How is he swinging that lightsaber? Pretty well, huh?
He's got a rattler, and his arm. He's got a pretty good arm on him. It's caught me in the face a couple times.
Nice.
So what all are you doing to celebrate the week of Star Wars May the 4th? Are you watching the films?
So
what all's going on there?
I watched episode 4 and 5 on Disney Plus, and then I went and watched the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi on the Ultra screen in theaters Monday night.
Nice. Awesome.
And then Tuesday, I watched all of the prequels, like 1, 2, 3, back to back, Disney Plus. Wednesday, I actually threw it back, and I went scavenging on Half Price Books. Was like the only place I can find it, but I found a physical DVD copy of The Force Among Us, and I'd never seen it before.
Oh, you got to be kidding me!
Familiar with that?
The Force Among Us.
Yeah.
You're talking about Chris Mock's a documentary.
Chris Mock's documentary, like 2007.
That's unbelievable because Mock has been trying to call all night, and every time I go to his call, he drops. So I don't know. Right? He's hanging up. So Christian, if you're listening, call back. We'll get you on there, and you can give Keegan the $5 that you owe him for plugging The Force Among Us.
Oh, by the way, Rich Brendel from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin is checking in, and he says, dang it, Jimmy, Leinenkugels is Chippewa Falls. Wisconsin represent. Yeah, you said Menominee Falls, and I thought that was Leinenkugel. What are they brewing in Menominee Falls? There's got to be some alcoholic connection to that place. Otherwise, I wouldn't have recalled hearing the name until you said it.
And certainly Rich wouldn't know.
What's that, buddy? You broke up a little.
I know. I don't think there's any like breweries up here in my area, but I mean, we're right next door to Miller Coors down in Milwaukee. So
Okay, all right, that's good stuff.
Well, Keegan, I'm glad that we could be a part of your week-long celebration of all things Star Wars. That's awesome. Enjoy the rest of your Star Wars staycation and enjoy, Dwayne. These are precious times, man. One dad do another. It's all joy and no fun. All joy, no fun.
There's moments of fun.
There are. There's
moments.
Bye, or Keegan.
That was nice of Keegan to call, and I hope he can come down to Chicago and hang with us sometime when we do our hangs.
That would be nice for him to hang with.
We've had plenty of people come down from Milwaukee, so that's why I'm so willing to throw out the invite. You know,
there must be something going on in Wisconsin because we've got Garrett. He wants to talk Jedi Survivor. Hey, Garrett.
Garrett from Milwaukee. Now he's a guy who's come down for the Galloping Ghost hangs.
Hey, Garrett.
Oh yeah,
I remember.
I was just gonna say, hey Keegan, you need a ride? If you're in Milwaukee area, I've shuttled a couple other guys down with me before. So if I'm making it out, hit me up. I'm on Facebook.
All right. Garrett from Milwaukee. Well, just send. Seriously though, if people do want to hook up, can I just say they can email us at show@rebelforceradio.com and I could put them in touch with you if this is actually something you want to do?
Oh
Garrett?
yeah, well I mean, hey, it's fellow fans and I don't mind. So
Garrett's gonna come down with a busload of people. Let's go! Party at Jimmy Mac's house.
Then it's fine. We'll throw some people in the trunk.
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
Oh yeah.
So happy May the 4th.
I was just
to you,
calling in.
Garrett.
I just got on break at work.
Oh, you're on break. Okay.
Thank you very much. I figured I'd call in since you guys were still going as usual.
we're still going. I hear that you wanted to talk Jedi Survivor and Cal Kestis.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I played through the first game. I didn't actually 100% it, like get all the collectibles and stuff, but I've been playing as much as I can, like any free time that I can get outside of work and life stuff. I've just been playing as much as possible, and I'm about at the same amount of hours that you are, Jimmy. I think you said like 15 or something, but like
15,
even
16,
just in that little time, like I keep getting distracted because like there's so much to do. It's a much larger game than the last one.
I keep getting lost.
Customization options are a lot of fun.
I get lost. I run around in circles.
Oh yeah, same. I also get lost all the time.
But I am good at reading the map mostly. But even the map has some puzzles you have to work out.
The map is better this time. But yeah,
I've been looking for Graz's bar for like 3 days.
My ADHD kicks in.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I know what that's all about too.
I'm just like, oh, there's a new quest over here. Oh, let me do that, and suddenly I'm discovering a whole new part of the map. It's a massive game, and it's just like I spent like probably like 7 hours just on like the main hub planet with the cantina and everything. I decided the other night I was like, okay, I gotta stop because there's way more mechanics that I could discover that'll help me a lot more here. Take people out faster and things like that. I was like, okay, I got to do the story now. So I'm kind of trying to focus on that.
Whatever approach you take, you will always be sacrificing something else. And that's what's so incredible about this game. You can, you can recharge during meditation, but hey, look, now you can also do some training sessions on the side, or you can, it's just so much more expanded from the first one, which was expansive enough to begin with. But man, these guys are knocking it out of the park with these games. Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order. I don't think you can be a Star Wars fan without experiencing these games. I think it's that essential. I'm not gatekeeping or anything. I'm just saying it's that essential to my fandom that I experience these games.
Great. And some of the stuff they're pulling in is like really cool and really fun.
Would you guys?
I won't say anything because I don't want to put out spoilers because I'm barely doing anything.
Yeah, be careful of that, Garrett. Swank's got a question.
Well, no, I was just going to say, would you guys, since you're both talking about Jedi Survivor, I mean, would you agree with the idea that maybe the writers of these games should get a crack at a series? Maybe if it's not Jedi Survivor, but at least, you know, the people that are putting pen to paper and writing these two games, clearly they're they're a big hit. People are enjoying them. I mean, why not graduate these writers up to putting together a series or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's possible.
I think that would be amazing because like they knocked the first game out of the park, and now I'm only like the same amount of Jimmy as 15 hours in, and I'm already like loving the story and everything that they have in this game. I think it would be awesome if they gave them some sort of writing for a show or something like that, even if it, like you said, even if it isn't like focused on Cal Kestis or anything like that. I mean, I would love to see him in live action canon because his character in game looks like the actor, which is awesome.
Right.
So like,
that's the It guy, isn't it? Is that the guy that plays It?
I would love it.
Well, he was from Gotham. I forget his name, but he played the equivalent of the Joker on the Gotham on the WB show.
Right. I thought it was.
Am I dating myself by still calling it the WB? the CW.
The CW.
Oh my god!
I think you're dating yourself, Lloyd. But no, I thought he was the same guy that played It. I think it's a Skarsgård, isn't it?
Maybe I don't remember. I didn't ever watch it, so
it's definitely the Joker guy from
Gotham. Cameron something.
Yeah,
he's a
Cameron
ginger.
Monaghan. Cameron Monaghan.
He's a ginger. He's an Irish boy. I love him. I mean,
I think I've got it mixed up. Skarsgård it's a Skarsgård, I believe, part of that lineage that's doing the It stuff.
Cameron Monaghan. I remember when Star Wars Celebration was here in Chicago, and that was like the big launch for Jedi Fallen Order, and Cameron was in town, and he was saying that he had some sort of ties to the Chicago area too, like he may have studied here or may have acted here early in his career.
Cool.
But yeah, he's so cool, and his character Cal Kestis is so cool in BD1 and the supporting cast, and then the potential of bump into Saw Gerrera every once in a while. Why not? It's a great game. It's so good. It's so good.
Oh yeah.
Now
so
my question
fun.
is how many?
Well, I want to ask you guys.
Writers...
Did you see this? Hold on. Did you see this commercial here? The commercial with Mark Hamill.
Oh yeah, with Hamill. He's coaching him.
Yeah,
Hamill and Monaghan or Monahan or whatever.
I loved that.
Not playing baseball.
I had like all my friends sending me that video.
Take me to the senator now. Less risk.
I heard people were sending this to me saying, "This is what the sequel trilogy should have been."
Have force, right?
Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Finally training his Padawan.
Hold it.
You get 2 lightsabers?
Finally.
Technically 1, but I can split them.
You get 2?
He's jealous.
2 lightsabers.
That's awesome.
That reminds me of the time when Ian McDiarmid and Christopher Lee were friendly. They were contemporaries and peers, and they had a friendship. And Christopher Lee was telling Ian McDiarmid about how his character is steeped in the dark side. This is before Attack of the Clones came out. Steeped in the dark side, and he had all these powers and stuff. And McDiarmid pushed back and said, "Yeah, well, my character can make lightning come out. I can make lightning come out of my fingertips." He didn't say my character. He said, "I can make lightning come out of my fingertips." And Christopher Lee said, "Oh no, my dear boy, I have it too." And I was like, wow, man.
Oh, that's great.
The playing field has been leveled between Christopher Lee and Ian McDiarmid. But Ian McDiarmid has told that story, and he's done the Christopher Lee impersonation too. And I have to say, I'm impressed with the bass that he's able to get out of that impersonation.
I want to hear that sometime.
Boy, did Christopher Lee have a great sounding voice.
Yeah, that would be cool to see.
No. No.
That's awesome.
Not bad, Swank. Swank's delivering. Would you believe that? You know.
Garrett, thanks a lot for the call, buddy. Appreciate it.
No.
Really appreciate the support. Here he is. Here's
No.
Chris. Here's Christian mocked just down the road or up the road or somewhere along the road for Jimmy Mack.
Oh, Gotham is on
us.
Fox, not the WB.
Close enough.
Close enough. Christian, did you hear that there was a plug for The Force Among Us? One of our listeners went into a half-priced books and picked up a copy of The Force Among Us DVD. What do you think of that, man?
At half price, how much did he pay for it?
See, he wants the kickback. Right away, he's thinking about what his profit margin should be on this sale. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, it's kind of sad that I've been in the game long enough where my DVD that's sold out and it got repriced as a director's cut is at half price books. Have I made the big time?
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah, you
Christian,
made it.
I think you're missing out, man, because I've got it on DVD. Are we going to see a Blu-ray release? Can we see this thing in 4K? What's going on? Can we get this thing remastered?
Yeah. At this point, we should, right? You know what? I'm going to save that for the 20th anniversary.
Oh, okay. Oh, I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah.
Get it on Disney Plus.
Hey, you know what? I'll give you a little kickback because you kind of sparked my idea of doing that. It's
oh no, all ideas
see it
are
on
free
Blu-ray, but
right here.
Hey, amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Hey, Jason, I owe you an apology because my little show, Mocktails from the Cantina, had used some footage of Baby Belushi without asking permission and asking for forgiveness. So I apologize for.
Why are you apologizing to me? He's not my friend. No, I love Baby Belushi. But
Christian, what's the matter with you? Why are you calling us?
No, I'm apologizing.
Why are you? I don't want to hear any of this. Why are you calling us? Why are you calling us?
He wants to get it on the record that he's apologizing for using unauthorized footage.
What the? Get to the point. The Force Within Us is going to be screening this weekend in Chicago over by Wrigley Field.
Wait a minute. What's going on? Wait a minute. What's happening? There's a screening of what?
Yeah, because, okay, you guys keep talking about The Force Among Us, but me and Jimmy were talking the other night about The Force Within Us. That's the real Star Wars documentary, not that one that I did years ago when we were in Norway. It's The Force Within Us, where we captured Jeremy Bullock, Ashley Eckstein, Robert Watts. We filmed in Northern California. We talked to all those, people that worked on Return of the Jedi, which is celebrating its 40th anniversary.
Yes.
So my little documentary that's 10 years old is still really relevant because it captures fandom in its true essence, as you guys know. And then
you go to the
it really
shooting
celebrates
sites.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, big time it does. You go to the Ewok Village shooting sites and you talk to the people, and they have props laying around from the films that look, on top of the refrigerator, there's that thing that Chewie was only thinking with his stomach about. I mean, this is just like the craziest thing.
Yeah, in somebody's house, right?
It's just there.
So anyways, that is screening in Chicago for the 10th anniversary at a theater called Otherworld. It's a small independent theater, and God bless them, they are starting off today on May 4th for a whole weekend of events that runs through Sunday. They are doing a book signing with, they're doing a book signing with somebody of importance, and I have it in front of me. Star Wars Multiverse talkback and book signing with author Carmelo Estrich. I don't know if you guys
Who
are
the
familiar
hell
with
is
him.
that?
He might be a Chicago guy.
He wrote a book.
He's even a deeper cut than myself.
He wrote. Listen,
and
he wrote a book.
Hey, if mocked is
Star Wars
C-list
Multiverse. And I know this because he was on WGN with Wendy Snyder last week.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
And he's an author. He wrote a book
And
called
he
Star
went
Wars
to the same
Multiverse.
College.
He went to Columbia College,
Went to
the
the
same
same
place
college
I
that-
went and you went to too, right,
There's
Chris?
Jimmy Mack and I.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
So
I went there.
the where's the screening at, and where do people get tickets for this? because it is a fantastic. Even if you're associated with it, Chris, it is a fantastic documentary. It's awesome.
No,
I'm kidding.
Even though I'm affiliated with this, yes, it is a fantastic event. You know what? You can go to otherworldtheater.org, and you know what? I recommend all the friends, all the RFR listeners from Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, wherever, to come in and make a weekend of this. You can take advantage of our beautiful weather that we are having in Chicago. It has been very, very Camino-like for a long time. And, you know, get out, explore the city, see this weekend here at Otherworld Theater. Tickets are only, you know, for the screening of The Force Within Us, they're only $10, and that will get you sand from Death Valley and dirt from Northern California. I'm giving away vials.
How many bags of this sand? You've been giving away sand from Tatooine for as long as I've known you, and I've known you for like 16 years. How much of this sand do you still have sitting around your house? And how do we know it's authentic?
Well, no, this is not Tunisian sand, because that supply has been cut off a long time ago.
This is sand from his daughter's sandbox out in the backyard.
Well, that's what I'm afraid of. No. It's like from the baseball diamond at the school. No. Yeah, I don't know, man. So how much of the sand do you have left?
Would I lie to you guys? Would I lie to you guys?
No.
There's one thing about Christian is he's painfully honest. And what you see is what you get with Christian Macht. He's one of the most legitimate and authentic people I know. So, and you wear your fandom on your sleeve like nobody. Yeah. Well, I'm not saying you're all that great. Don't let that get to your head. I'm just calling it like
I'm looking at the website. It's Otherworld Theater, and that's theater spelled with an RE.org. Otherworldtheater.org, and they've got a whole lineup here on the website, as Christian was talking about, for May the 4th weekend. Otherworld Theater in Chicago on Clark Street. Here's the whole schedule. Wow, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's that talkback and the signing with Carmelo. And then, of course, The Force Among Us at the Danbury Theater, 1 p.m. screening, $10. Seeing it on the big screen, that's very cool. Very cool.
I'm going to try to make it to this. I have comic book day obligations, believe it or not, with my friends at Blurred's Underground in LaGrange, Illinois, which is just my favorite all-time comic book shop.
It's a busy weekend.
Yeah, it is. But I'm gonna do the Blurred's thing early, like 10:30. I'll be at Blurred's, and then I'm gonna jump in a car and I'm gonna head out to the North Side, Wrigleyville, and I'm gonna see The Force Within Us. I'm in it. I'm actually in this movie. Christian, I remember I found and Dylan, my son Dylan, is in it.
Yeah, and don't forget, you're also in The Force Among Us, but that's not going to be screening on this day. But you're in both of these documentaries. The Force Within Us is actually like we shot you in your old studio. We filmed you at your house. Wendy Mack is in it. Your boys are in it.
Wow.
It's a very, very personal, Star Wars love story. For those of you that have not seen this film, it's been out for 10 years. If you can't make the screening, you can get it on Amazon. I'm probably going to get about a nickel for every download that is consumed.
Yeah, but that's not important. We just want people to see
Amazon
it.
Amazon is just not very nice to the independent filmmakers.
Chris, I can rent it for $1.99, or I can buy it for $8, and you're saying you get like 5 cents out of that.
Whatever. Take it up with Jeff Bezos. I don't care about that. I think don't you want just people to see it,
At this point, you just want people to see it.
I do want people to, yes, I do want people to see it. At this point, it's not about the money. Obviously, I'm not doing this for a living. And after the screening of The Force Within Us, we are going to do a live mocktails from the Cantina podcast. And this is great because we did the live show in Anaheim last year, but I've never done a live show in my own city. So I'm really excited to not only screen this film God, Steven Sansweet's in this, Robert Watts, Jeremy Bow. I mean, this film is like what I want people to remember me by when I die. Because I remember there's so much heart and soul into this film.
There's a lot of that. And
I really want to share this with everybody.
You came to my house. This was before you released this thing, before it was finished, and you had sort of like this working edit, an edit in progress. And I remember sitting at my kitchen table, me, you, and Wendy, and we watched it on a laptop. And we gave you a bunch of we gave you a bunch of
writes the Bruce Lee books. Your buddy.
What? I didn't get what he just said.
Bruce Lee books. He said something about
Bruce Lee. Oh, John Marcoux was there. Yes, John Marcoux was there as well. The Jedi Yogi, the great John Marcoux was in the house as well. And we watched it. We gave you notes on, and I think the main thing we were driving at, and we sat around and talked for like 2 hours after it was over. And I think the main thing we were driving at was make it more personal, put your own heart into it, and take people on the Star Wars journey from where you connect to it. And then you take them all to all kind of crazy places. You go out to Death Valley, you go up to Northern California, to the giant redwoods and to the actual shooting locations of Return of the Jedi. And you talk to many notable Star Wars personalities along the way. I'm a huge fan of Robert Watts, who of course was a producer on all films of the original trilogy. And you can even catch a glimpse of Robert in Return of the Jedi. He's one of those Scout Walker drivers. It's him and Rick McCallum when chewing the Ewoks.
Oh, right, yeah.
Come and invade. And that's the other thing. So Chewie pulls the one Scout Trooper driver out of the thing and throws him over to the side, right? And then the two Ewoks drop in and they just club that one Ewok driver.
They beat the hell out of that guy.
And he just like disappears.
Those Ewoks are wild. And
where did the body go though? I mean, because now there's two Ewoks in there and Chewbacca and this corpse. They must have beat that thing to a pulp. Where does it go?
Well, once you break all the bones, it just kind of folds up there down at the feet. I have another question. Now that we're talking about logic and Return of the Jedi.
Uh-oh.
And this might be really obvious, but I couldn't help but, as they were doing the raid on the Death Star, couldn't help but think about, did the Urso flaw that was built into the first Death Star pass along to the Death Star 2, or did they fix it? But did they really fix it? Because they pretty much blew it up the same damn way they blew up the first one.
Well, but you have to keep in mind that the first one was completed and, had its full defense system and everything. This one was still under construction,
right,
and easy to get in there. Yeah, that was just an easier access sort of thing. That's what I believe.
Okay. Oh, I see. So the fact that it wasn't complete gave them better access to its core. Yeah. Whereas they would have had to, had it been completed, they'd have had to done a similar trench run. But it does beg the question, did the flaw transfer to the Death Star 2? Would it have had the same flaw?
What I had heard was, I don't know where I picked this up from, some book or something, but the original Death Star had those exhaust vents that were 2 meters wide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Death Star 2 had more of a system on it that was kind of like the way that human epidermis covers the body, and there's pores in there. It's tiny pores where whatever gases that need to get released that way, as opposed to through that vent that Luke used to shoot the proton torpedo into.
Yeah.
So that's the best I can do. I read it in some book somewhere, and I think I read
it in a book.
It was in a book.
Christian, one last time. We've got the event that's coming up on is that Saturday?
This Saturday. Yeah.
This Saturday.
Yes.
Bradbury Theater.
May 6th. Yes.
Yeah.
May 6th.
Bradbury Theater, 1 o'clock, followed by a Mocktails Live. And I got to tell you, you were talking to a listener before me. I got to tell you, the trench run from Return of the Jedi, if you will, the trench run from that versus the original, there's something very, very nerve-wracking about Lando and the Falcon and Return of the Jedi. I would say that is probably the most intense Death Star run, if you will.
No way. It doesn't compare. It doesn't compare to the
movie.
countdown.
I think Return of the Jedi.
Countdown. You may fire when ready. I mean, everything is on the line. You know, they're going to blow up a planet. There's a countdown to 30. And it's adding the tension, and John Williams soundtrack adding the tension. There's no cutaways to a bunch of teddy bears running around in the woods. It's focused.
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, of course you're going to say that because that was the first film that you saw. But man,
it has nothing to do with first. It only has to do with the best. That's all it. That's all it is. The first. The first one. Nothing.
All right, Christian.
Man. Well, you know what? Hey, I love all Star Wars. I love you guys. Thanks for having me on the show. We'll see you guys on Saturday.
All right, buddy. Thanks very much. Thanks for calling in. One of our very first guests when we started podcasting many moons ago was Christian Mocht and
Chris, Kyle
and
Newman.
Yeah.
Who else was? You had your composer buddy was an original.
The great artist from Columbus. What's his name? Joe
Caroni.
Joe Caroni. What a nice guy he is.
He's a great guy. He's still out there doing the thing on the convention circuit, doing the prints and everything. Official Star Wars artist. And Steve Sansweet, of course.
Yeah, well, yeah, it took us a little while to get Steve. But I mean those early days. It was awesome. Let's got a couple more calls we can squeeze in. Oh, we got to take Jay from Philly because he wants to talk about the great Carrie Fisher getting her star on the Walk of Fame. That happened today.
Oh, yeah.
How appropriate for May the 4th. Hey, Jay.
What's going on, gentlemen? How are you?
How are you doing?
I'm well. Yeah, I just wanted to see if you guys had tuned in. It was a live event on YouTube. I don't know if you guys saw it or not.
I didn't see it, but what I have seen, Jay, is all the drama about how Billy Lord didn't invite any of Carrie's siblings to the event. So apparently there's some, and this happens a lot, unfortunately, when someone passes away in a family, especially when there's money involved. Yeah. And of course, Billy Lord is not just the daughter of Carrie Fisher, but also the granddaughter of Debbie Reynolds. So that seemed to have kind of sucked all the oxygen out of Carrie's honoring, as everyone's just talking about the family drama and dynamics, unfortunately.
I think Billy was frosted by books, tell-all books that were written by Carrie's brother Todd Fisher and her sister Jolie Fisher, and that was I think Billy looked at that as a cash in, and she wasn't consulted on any of that, and so you know how it gets with families sometimes.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and of course, like you said, Jason, the amount of cash and other assets that are involved, or I don't know. I mean, it's a whole nother level. So, because you're also looking at the legacy of Debbie Reynolds, and so I mean, there's some huge Hollywood equity involved in the Carrie Fisher estate. Yeah.
What did you see, Jay? You watched the live stream?
Well, I stumbled upon it. I was going through YouTube. I was trying to see what people's thoughts were on the whole new season for Star Wars Visions, and I happened to see it, and that it was live, and I completely had no idea that it was happening. But yeah, to touch on what you guys are talking about, with the whole family drama, I'm not really letting that overshadow. It was, a moment for Carrie, and I think that's what's most important.
And Mark was there? Mark Hamill was there?
Yeah, Mark was there. She's getting some shine and some, she's getting some more respect on, what she contributed
Yeah.
to,
You don't want to see
Star
Carrie
Wars.
Fisher. You don't want to see Carrie
yeah,
Fisher turned into a punchline. That's an easy jab. She had her
Yeah.
demons, and she owned them. The thing that was so great about Carrie was the fact that she fessed up. She knew what she was. She knew who she was. She was pretty honest about a lot of that. I think, unfortunately, few knew just how intense things were for her at an age when the body just isn't going to respond to those vices quite the way they did when you're in your 20s or your 30s. But when I'm watching Return of the Jedi on the big screen and watching Carrie Fisher, she's just absolutely gorgeous, and you just can't take your eyes off her when she's on the big screen.
Oh,
she's
there's a power, there's an energy.
Star. Yeah,
there's a power, there's an energy, there's a confidence.
Yeah,
that like you said, we knew all about Carrie and her demons, and she put it all out there, and also she put her vulnerabilities out there in a very public way. So, but when you look at Princess Leia, you see strength, you see confidence, you see somebody who knows exactly what she's doing. And she's even a step ahead of the Empire. Han Solo, that escape was pretty amazing. I'm so awesome. She's like, what are you patting yourself on your back for? They're tracking this ship, you dumbass.
Was this your first time? Oh, you're cute. It's your first time dealing with the Empire. I see how it is. But anyway, Jay, what did you take away from the proceedings?
Oh, that she's still greatly missed, and what she contributed to Star Wars will never go away. I'm a '90s kid, and growing up, I watched a lot of science fiction films that I shouldn't have been watching.
Yeah,
Aliens.
Parents weren't watching, huh?
Aliens and Terminator.
Terminator.
They didn't mind, actually. They didn't mind.
Oh, good. Okay,
but,
all right.
Aliens and Terminator, they had strong leading ladies, and nowadays people are always complaining about representation and strong female leads and characters. Carrie Fisher was one of those that a very strong archetype that little girls or whatever can look up to. And Carrie had a natural sass that really carried her character. She wasn't annoying. She wasn't overbearing. If you got on her nerves, she let you know how she felt. And I felt like, when she came back to Star Wars later, I feel like she was just getting started, but she was going to bring more, but she unfortunately passed away.
What could have been, what
look
might
at all the
have
stuff
been.
Hamill's done. Hamill's career got totally revived in his 60s because he was brought back for Star Wars, and well deserved for Mark. I mean, and overdue. Jeez, that guy got typecasted. Nobody wanted Luke Skywalker in their movies, and then he got older, and nobody wanted old Luke. Poor guy. Too bad they didn't bring back the Star Wars films earlier just for his sake. And I think SNL missed a big opportunity to have him host when The Force Awakens was hitting, or The Last Jedi. I mean, how do you not call up Mark Hamill and say,
Mark Hamill's doing that film, The Machine, and he could always come back. I mean, for SNL if they want. But now we got this writer's strike going on.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Everything's in development hell.
Right. Pete Davidson was supposed to host SNL this week, and that's gone belly up.
All the late night talk shows, they all said, we can't do it. We can't do it without our writers. So all of those are on hiatus. Yeah, the Kimmels, the Fallons, the what's that other guy?
Seth Meyer.
The fake guy.
Seth Meyer.
No, not Seth. He's the fake guy that pretended to be I don't know, Bill O'Reilly for a while on Comedy Central. What's his Colbert?
Oh,
that's
you're
who I'm
talking about
thinking.
Stephen Colbert.
Colbert.
He's a big Star Wars fan. We saw him at Star Wars Celebration 2019 in Chicago. Remember, he hosted.
He's a big phony. Anyway, hey, Jay, thanks for calling, buddy. Appreciate it. And you're welcome on the show anytime. And thanks for helping us remember Carrie, because this was a big day for her legacy.
Colbert's okay, but I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what am I watching? Am I watching a character here? I don't know. I'm not a fan.
Well, that was the thing with when he was on his
Comedy
show.
Central, yeah.
Comedy Central, yeah. I never really understood where the character began and Colbert ended, so I just said, the hell with it. There's too much to think about.
Yeah, but he
So
is a great big Star Wars fan. That's right. That's for sure. And okay, we've got time for one more call. Let's take it. This is Chris from Michigan. Hello, Chris. Last call on this May the 4th. May the 4th be with blah, 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 blah. May the 4th be with you. Hey, Chris.
Chris.
Thanks for fitting me in, guys. Chat.
Chat.
Hey, Chris.
It's been nice to get on the show. I am always in the chat as Sarah CD4. That's why I go by that.
Wait a minute. Who are you in the chat?
You guys.
Who are you in the chat?
Sarah CD4. I throw some super chats you guys.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank
Sweet.
you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No problem. But yeah. So it's nice to finally talk to you guys. It's been nice to hear everything about Return of the Jedi because that was when the special editions were released in '97. Those were my first taste of Star Wars on the big screen back then.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was born in the '80s, but I grew up on '90s Star Wars with all the the original EU and
yes.
all the talk about. It's been interesting to listen about the trench run from like the first Death Star into the second Death Star run and Return of the Jedi because of Wedge Antilles. While as I was going through some May the 4th videos on YouTube today, there was this really interesting one that kind of got me thinking of. He's really an unsung hero of definitely Return of the Jedi, but maybe of like the original trilogy, kind of like the Roger Maris to Luke's Mickey Mantle, if you will. He kind of gets overshadowed by he blew up a whole Death Star, right? So
that means Mickey Mantle had the Force, and Roger Maris was just a damn good pilot. Reliable. Wedge makes an appearance in Star Wars Visions.
I don't know.
Wedge makes an appearance in Star Wars Visions, but whenever I think about Wedge and people talking about him in such glowing terms, I flash back to this very early issue of Star Wars Insider, back when Dan Madsen was the publisher. It was a very early issue, and Wedge was the cover story, and the headline was The Cult of Wedge Antilles. And I've always just loved that out of all the Star Wars characters out there, only one has been really singled out in publishing as having a cult following, and that is Wedge Antilles. I mean, you'd think maybe Kitster would have achieved that status just by all the smoke I've been blowing up that character's ass for 15 years. But no, it is Wedge. There's a cult of Wedge. Now, you, sir, do you consider yourself a cult member of the cult of Wedge Antilles?
I do, because I grew up on all the X-Wing novels and the X-Wing games. I hear you guys talking about Jedi Fallen Order. I got too many young kids at home to be diving into that, but I grew up on the X-Wing games and books, and he's the central character to that. And so when I got really bummed out when the Rogue Squadron film got shelved or whatever that is right now, but that's kind of why I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this video was talking about. We kind of already got the Rogue Squadron movie, and a lot of people think of that as Top Gun Maverick because it's got like this veteran pilot bringing in a bunch of hotshot pilots and showing them the ropes on this like life or death mission, doing the trench run even. And I think that really had the feeling of what I always pictured Rogue Squadron to be when I was reading all those books, and that's what I was hoping to get for a movie. So. I don't think Tom Cruise is going to play Wedge Antilles by any means, but that was one of the things I wanted to ask you is, do you think, and I know, forgive me, I forget the guy's name who portrays Wedge.
Well, it depends on which Wedge you're talking about.
Dennis Lawson.
Dennis Lawson would be the real Wedge.
By the way, I would have loved a Tom Cruise take on Wedge Antilles. Top Gun, Star Wars style. Come on. That would have been outstanding. Who are we kidding here? I mean, that's a magic
so would
combination.
you guys be opposed to if it wasn't Tom Cruise? Let's assume that they got the green light on Rogue Squadron, whether it's going to be a Disney Plus series or a film. We could throw Tom Cruise in there in the mix if you wanted to, but would you be opposed to them recasting because I know the original actor is kind of a bit iffy of his, I think I get the impression he's more of a theater actor and doesn't necessarily like to always be in Star Wars.
That's a misconception about Dennis Lawson.
Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, sure. Recast Wedge. Who gives a shit? But I mean, Dennis Lawson, that's a misconception about him, that he doesn't like the character.
Okay.
He's above replaying the character. I think he may have popped off in some print interviews years and years ago about how he just didn't really care about the character. It was just a day of work for him. But as we found out, me and Jason hooked up with him in 2017 at Star Wars Celebration Orlando and talked to him and found out, oh no, it was a very different story with him. He was proud of his contribution to Star Wars and them slotting him into the Rise of Skywalker he was thinking to himself, what took you guys so long? I mean, Billy D. Williams is thinking the same thing, I'm sure, but yeah, why didn't they call Wedge? They should have done it a long time ago, but there was this misconception, this rumor, this concept that he was above Star Wars at this point in his career.
Or I wonder, would you guys be fine with them just saying, just moving on from Wedge and just slotting Poe Dameron in there, like maybe in what's coming up in like the new Jedi Order era, like 15 years down the road or whatever?
It's fine. It's okay.
Well, you have a character, like
fine.
Wedge who does have a certain amount of equity with the fan base, but he's really yet to be explored. And I don't think, even though Dennis Lawson is the only guy to portray Wedge Antilles on screen, I don't think Dennis has any particular ownership over the character. And I'd be more than welcome to see a new, fresh actor taking a take on Wedge Antilles and build a whole series around him. Why not? And show the X-Wing Rogue Squadron as they're fighting the Empire or sweeping up the galaxy on behalf of the New Republic. I think I'd rather see an original trilogy based show about Rogue Squadron or Red Squadron, whatever you want to call it, getting in early skirmishes with the Empire, and just like small stories, 2 X-Wing against 3 TIE fighters or something. It doesn't have to be a big.
I love the Top Gun analogy. I think that's very
Top
cool.
Gun.
You could do a Top Gun type series or film about the X-Wing pilots. I think it'd be awesome.
Are you listening, Lucasfilm? We're giving you gold.
I think
This is solid gold.
Saying, but, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
It's
okay.
But it speaks to what you guys were saying about Visions, where I am only halfway through the second season. I started watching it tonight a little bit, and I kind of got the same vibes as you guys. But even with throwing that together with the first season, a lot of it's very Force and Jedi heavy, which is fine. But there are other stories to tell, and I felt like something like Rogue Squadron or like fighter pilots, starfighter pilots, or like kind of that grounded side, the Andor side, if you will, of the Star Wars universe that like has a lot to do with it. The boots on the ground, so to speak, or the hand, on in the X-Wing cockpit. So I feel like that's a good flavor to be using in Star Wars.
There's a fan-made short that's been floating around out there for the past decade or so, featuring TIE Fighter Squadron, told in anime-influenced style. There's no voice acting or anything, but it's just great. You could see it on YouTube. I think it's just simply called TIE Fighter. And I've yet to see Visions achieve anything as authentic Star Wars as that fan-made clip created 10 years ago. that fan-made clip has, and that's, they really need to focus in on that as opposed to just these, you know, stories vaguely associated with the Force, and then lightsabers show up in the last 5 minutes of the short. There's really no connection to the greater Star Wars galaxy. You know, we need to get stories that are steeped in Star Wars, not just kind of vaguely influenced by surface level things like lightsabers and just the Force, you know, with these characters we're not invested in. I'm sorry, but my final review of Star Wars Vision Seasons 2 is simply one word: why? That's it. Why? It's a waste of time. All right. It's why it's a waste of time. 6-word review.
We put that blurb on the poster.
And I'm not gatekeeping here either, because I understand if you find value in it, I want you to find value in it. It's just, for me as a Star Wars fan, being honed by almost 50 years of Star Wars.
I said this about the first season, which is, it's for fans of anime that like Star Wars, not for fans of Star Wars that like anime, in my opinion. I think that it's about the medium, the art form, the style first. That comes first, and its connection to Star Wars comes second. And that's cool if that's what you're into. It's fine. We got plenty of straight up Star Wars for us to deal with. But as far as like sitting down and doing a breakdown of each of these little shorts,
no, we can't.
Not interested in that.
I can't even sit down and watch any of these shorts. Let's be honest with you. I was scrubbing through all of them. Now, I do want to say that May the 4th on Disney Plus was not a complete washout for this fan.
Oh yeah? What did you see other than that, Visions?
There was a Simpsons short that was 5 minutes long.
Was there?
Yes, and it featured the Mandalorian and
is that worth checking out? I haven't seen that.
Well, if you want to see Maggie Simpson and Baby Yoda's pram, then you'll want to check this out. And I mean, just like that sentence alone is enticing enough to me as a fan of both The Simpsons and Star Wars. So it's on Disney Plus. It's worth checking out. It's called like Rogue Baby or Rogue something. The title is a connection to Rogue One, but the actual content has nothing to do with Rogue One. It's more Mandalorian focused, and just there's no voice acting in it, you know.
Yeah,
it's just a straightforward Simpsons short featuring Maggie. We've seen these before. They did one, I think, last year on May the 4th.
I think so. Yeah. They've been doing some original shorts on Disney Plus.
An ongoing series, and the supervising writer of the Simpsons, a guy named Michael Price, who's a huge Star Wars fan.
Oh yeah, he wrote the first Lego special.
He's done a lot of the Lego stuff, and so he's always.
Is he head writer now of Simpsons?
Well, he's been with the Simpsons forever.
Right.
I believe he's still with the show. Every time I wonder this, I go, is Michael Price still with the show? I look him up, and sure enough, he's like the head writer. You know.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's been carrying on for years and years with the Simpsons, and
they keep going.
Just like, and I mean, he's got Star Wars fandom pedigree.
Yes.
Big time. So
all right, well, that's gonna wrap things up, I think, for us here on this May the 4th. A lot of fun. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Do want to check in with Tyler, because well,
he's been busy tonight.
He has been busy tonight. We've had a great switchboard, people lighting up the phone lines. Thanks, Tyler. You know, I can't think of a better way to spend the 4th than talking to all
there you go.
callers. We had to do it. We had to do it. And we hope you like the format of the call-in show. This may pop up again from time to time. So let us know what you think. Show at rebelforceradio.com. That's the email address. Tyler, anything else that you did particularly Star Warsy this week of May the 4th? Or are you going to be going out to see The Force Within Us?
I'm going to try and make it out there. You know, I'm feeling a little under the weather, but we'll see.
Yeah, Tyler told me he's got
Tyler will be
cold.
there.
Yeah.
Tyler
It's like
will
10
be
minutes
there.
from my house. So.
It's 10 minutes from. He's such a loyal fan and friend. I know Tyler will be there. I'll be there. So if I can schlep all the way to the north side of the city, Tyler, you're gonna be.
Yeah.
Tyler, you have
we'll
fans,
be wearing White
buddy.
Sox gear, I'm sure. Suffering.
You got
wearing your Sox gear.
you got folks listening that are fans of what you contribute here. Check out RFR RPG with Tyler. It's awesome.
It is awesome. Oh, and I have to say, we recorded a new episode of RFR RPG with Tyler and, of course, our game master, Matt Rashid. And I want everyone to visit NBC.com after this show is over and watch last week's episode of Law and Order SVU. All you have to watch is the first 5 minutes, and you'll see our friend, Game Master Matt Rashid, who is also an actor.
I love it.
And he is in the first 5 minutes of that show. He's the guy wearing the pink tie and has an encounter with his wife in a place he should not be. Let me just put it to you that way. All the action with Matt happens before the Law and Order title even appears on the screen, but you'll get everything you need to see in that first 5 minutes. What's the name of the episode, Tyler?
Oh, man.
It's called
I do not
something.
know.
Bend the law, break the laws.
Is Matt? Is he an LA guy or is he a New York guy?
New York.
New York. I thought so. That's where they shoot Law and Order. All right.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Matt, I'm going to be in New York in a couple weeks.
Yes, it's episode 19 from this season, which is actually season 24. Oh my God.
Amazing, right?
24. The episode is called Bend the Law. It originally aired on April 27th, 2023. Punch it up on the NBC website or just do a Google search of it, and you'll see our friend, our brother, Matt Rashid, starring in. Oh, Eastside Dave is here too.
Eastside
What a
Dave's
night this
hanging
is.
out with us. Check it out.
Oh my God, the great Eastside
we were
Dave.
just talking about you, Dave.
Yeah.
Before the show started.
What did they say? Your nose is supposed to itch if someone's, or your ear is supposed to tingle or something. Eastside Dave must have known we were talking about him. What a great guy, man. I love Eastside Dave.
All right, Tyler. Well, we love you, buddy. And thanks so much for always being here and supporting us on these live shows and screening the calls. You do a great job, and everybody loves hearing from you. So if you're going to be out and seeing The Force Within Us at the Bradbury Theater in Chicago, you may see Tyler Page. You may see Jimmy Mack. Who knows? So please get out there if you're able to. Thanks so much, Tyler.
Thanks, guys.
Well, that's going to do it. We got a few super chats here. Let's see what we can. We just want to make sure that everybody gets recognized. Here is super chat from Uber Max is sending this to you guys as a birthday present to myself. Wow. So glad you guys are back. May the Force be with us all. Thank you, Uber Mac. There's Jimmy Mac, there's Billy Mac, and there's Uber Mac. Turtle
All
Wars says episode 8,
Turtle Wars.
The Pit. The animation reminded me a little of the Clone Wars micro series or the 1981 heavy metal movie. And the pangolin anteater was cool. Jim, I haven't gotten to episode 8. Sounds like you watched them all. So.
No. The Pit. I like I said, I scrubbed through a lot of them and stuff, but that's why I was really curious to get some recommendations tonight. So after the show, when I have time, I could really sit down and soak that in. The Pit seemed kind of interesting, and I noted that Justin Ridge was a producer on that particular short. He, of course, has come up through the Clone Wars with Filoni and worked on Rebels and other Star Wars animation too. I'm not sure if he was part of the Bad Batch, but I think he was. And so, The Pit, I will check it out. I also want to say one thing about Turtle Wars, who just gave us that super chat. He's a great guy. He matched our super chats from our Mandalorian season finale after show and donated all that money to Rancho Obi-Wan. I was just talking to the guys from Rancho Obi-Wan, Steve Sansweet and everyone. They greatly appreciate your donation. And everyone, I always tell you guys, you got to check out ranchoobi1.org. They just announced the gala is back. It's coming back this summer, late summer.
In person,
yes. And it's always a great time. Well worth the trip to Petaluma, California to see the world's single greatest location of Star Wars. If you could put Star Wars Celebration into a bottle, that's what Rancho Obi-Wan is. And you can uncork that bottle anytime you want and take a tour if you're a member. Also, be sure to plan ahead of time. You can't just show up and say, give me a tour. You have to be a member. You have to make reservations. Right. There's a process here. I just want to make sure people know. You know, some people, they don't understand what they're getting into.
They just show up and they knock on the door.
Mm-hmm.
Steve,
maybe someday the museum will be in a place where you can just walk up, pay admission, and go. But for right now, it's out in the land of eggs and butter, Petaluma, California, amongst the chickens and the farms, and it's an outstanding experience to go there.
Salby Crum, you are definitely speaking my language here. He says, unfortunately, I can't get the time to play the games, but since they're canon, I would love if they put together the stories from the games in an animated series to recap what happens there. Cheers. I would love that as well. I mean, I feel like they're mostly there, right? With the animatics and the cutscenes and all that. Why not somehow find a way to connect those together into some sort of truncated version to tell us the stories? I love that idea. I think that's fantastic.
Even a fresh animated take on the story itself that can be released, you know, within the same window of the video game being released, and it's great cross promotion between the two mediums.
Yeah, I would love that. Garrett from MKE says, Chut boys, wish I could call in and talk some Jedi Survivor, but I will survive and wait for my next Q&A. Listening at work. Love you guys. Leave a like, everyone. Yeah, please leave a like.
Thank you, Garrett.
We'd love to have that. What were you going to say about Garrett?
I just said thank you.
Oh, thanks, Garrett.
and I want this show to wrap up too, because I want to play Jedi Survivor.
He's got Jimmy Max. He's got battle droids to kill. Noah Porzelia says, I misspoke. My dad is. Oh, this was Noah, right? My dad is 63, not 53.
Oh, geez,
that makes
ancient.
a difference. When Star Wars originally came out, he didn't want to go, but my uncle dragged him to the theater, and he loved it. Thanks for taking my call. Have a great night.
Thanks for the update, Noah.
Yeah,
you're
thanks,
awesome,
buddy.
Noah. I love you, and I love your old dad. But you know, it was just a thing. You know, when I hear listeners talk about dragging their old dads out to the movies, and they're younger than me, then I was like, oh, I gotta say something. You know. Right. I'm the one trying to drag my kids out. Isn't it funny how, you know, life kind of has a
the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon. Jimmy Mac gonna see. All right, well, that's going to do it. Thanks for all the super chats. Thanks for all of the phone calls. What a great May the 4th this has been. We're going to make it a habit. We're going to make it a tradition. We'll be back next week with Rebel Force Radio, right? We'll be back next week.
Yeah,
we're doing a show.
Big time. I think
so for those of you,
RFR will return. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we've been since February. We haven't had just a normal old RFR.
We haven't. And I want to give a special shout out and thank you to those of you who have found us via YouTube. Want to make sure that you don't lose sight of Rebel Force Radio. Go to your favorite podcatcher of choice, whether it be Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever. Just go to rebelforceradio.com and make sure you subscribe to the podcast so that you can get more of Rebel Force Radio as we sort of return to our regularly scheduled programming. But if you're a Patreon member, you'll get the full show video, so it'll look just like what you're seeing now. And that'll all resume next week. And we'll see you next time. Good times. All right, for Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mac.
And remember,
The Force will be with you, always.
Happy Star Wars Day.